What's going on, everybody? Welcome to Radiovania's DC Extended Universe in Review. My name is Zach Rotello, at Zach Rotello on Twitter, and sitting across from me for the first time in a long time is John Swansong Parker.
In the flesh.
Yep.
Distanced, obviously. Stay safe.
Got a whole 6-foot table in between us.
But, yeah, it's like in Batman 1989 when they're having dinner, and she's sitting all the way down on the far end.
Yep.
Can you pass the salt?
If you're new, thanks for stopping by. I know you clicked on this link because of the hotly popular Batman vs. Superman. Of course, this is our DC in Review series. John and I sat down and came up with the idea to do a retrospective on one of the things that has been the backbone of some of our inside jokes and comedy of our show. And so what we did is we decided to go through each DC movie, starting with Man of Steel, so the DC Extended Universe, like the Snyderverse, going all the way from that to Birds of Prey, and then ending with Wonder Woman 84 when that eventually does drop.
And will most likely be the last?
I'm thinking it'll be the last.
It seems like
they're
they're switching to doing shows on HBO Max.
Well, there is the Suicide Squad, actually. James Gunn's
That's right.
The Suicide Squad.
The Suicide Squad. Not Suicide
The
Squad.
Ohio State University.
They're trying to start it over, right? So
it's a reboot. It's a reboot.
It's a backdoor reboot.
Yeah.
You think Margot Robbie's gonna be in that?
Yeah, the whole cast is confirmed already.
Even Leto?
No, he's not coming back.
Thank God. We'll talk about that next week.
Yeah, so last week we did Man of Steel, and just to give you a little preface on that one, Man of Steel, John gave it a 6.5, I gave it a 7, and since it's the only movie that we've watched so far, it's number 1.
Congrats.
But this week we were talking about...
It's like a participation award.
Yeah. It's like, you did okay. You got the ball toward the net.
Yep.
This week we're talking about Batman versus... Oh, by the way, if you want to follow the show, please do that. Radiovania. We're Radiovania pretty much everywhere. Radiovania Show, I think, on Instagram. Email the show, radiovaniashow@gmail.com with your opinions on the Batman v Superman movie. You know, if you disagree or you agree with us, we'd love to hear from you, hear your takes. So yeah, feel free to write in there. But we're talking about Batman versus Superman, Dawn of Justice, which we'll get into the name. Released on March 25th, 2016. Had a production budget of $263 million and a worldwide box office of $873 million.
It was a monster. It did pretty well.
It did well. Domestic 330 and then international 543. So definitely a high raking in movie there in the international box office.
Well, they were smart to release this in the month that they did, because wasn't later on in that summer Captain America: Civil War, which is essentially the same premise of two heroes fighting, and that movie was a monster too.
Civil War was ridiculous.
But
I mean, that movie made
BVS
so much
just
money.
owned the entire end of March and the month of April, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, and it was funny too because like you said, it felt like the summer of superhero movies where the heroes were like flawed and fighting a little bit and
making mistakes.
Yes.
Yeah.
And
one of them was good.
One of them is very good, but we're not going to spoil which one. Yeah, some rankings here. You know, it did well for box office and stuff, but it didn't like cross any crazy threshold. It's the 67th highest domestic box office of all time. It's the 70th highest grossing film of all time. Period. Like all things total. It's the 15th highest earning superhero film. So, however you want to put those. Okay. Those barriers around it.
What's the highest? Is it still Superman? 78?
Let's see.
Because that movie was released...
Endgame.
It's Endgame.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Oh, yeah. I should have...
Even
almost three bill.
Inflation?
I don't think... This is not adjusted for inflation. Okay. Cumulative worldwide box office.
Yeah, because they've released Superman 78 in theaters like multiple times, so I feel like that one probably stacks up.
I definitely don't think it beats Endgame, but or any of these top ones here, like in the billion, the two that like the Avengers Endgame, the Infinity War. Like what movie were you talking about? Superman?
Superman, the movie, 1978.
300 million.
That's it.
That's it.
All right.
Times are different, Dan.
Mm-hmm.
Directed by Zack Snyder, who you might know from doing 300 back in the day. He did Man of Steel as well. He also directed the Watchmen movie. He directed Justice League. Part of Justice League. Also, I mean, he got famous also for doing the Dawn of the Dead reboot in 2004.
Right.
Have you seen the Dawn of the Dead reboot?
Nope.
And then written by Chris Terrio and David S. Goyer.
Mm-hmm.
Chris Terrio, of course, writer of Argo, wrote Batman v Superman.
Academy Award-winning Argo.
Yes, the Academy Award-winning. He also is credited as the writer on Justice League.
Yep. Probably for story treatment.
Yeah. And then David S. Goyer wrote Batman Begins, Dark Knight, Batman v Superman.
Did he not write Dark Knight Rises?
It's not on his top build.
Okay. David Goyer is a long-running comic book writer. So.
Okay. So he's had his hands in a lot of the superhero cookie pots.
Mm-hmm.
Cool.
Yeah.
We watched the Ultimate Edition, by the way. That should be noted that we watched the extended version.
The 3-hour cut.
The 3-hour cut.
Batman v Superman.
It's 29 minutes and 54 seconds longer than the theatrical version.
Mm-hmm.
It has 60 extended scenes, 18 additional scenes, alternate footage. I think it's a better movie for
more
it.
blood,
Yeah,
I think.
Yeah, there's definitely some more blood. There's some more violence.
It's essentially they upped it to being rated R for the most part, if I remember correctly. But it's unrated because it was straight to
video.
Yeah.
So before we get into the plot, John, we've seen this movie a few times.
Yeah, probably like a dozen
before this rewatch.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think about this movie?
The more times I see it, the more I dislike it because I start to pick things apart a lot more. I'm sure if you go back and listen to our review of it when we left the theater, since we saw it opening night, we were still pretty harsh on it then. Like, we knew that there were problems with it after seeing it, but I do think we were still more positive on it because we hadn't known what would come later in the DC universe. So we just had this and Man of Steel to go off of.
Yeah.
And we both knew that Man of Steel was better, but we were excited for a new Batman because at that point it had been 4 years since the Nolan trilogy wrapped up. So there are parts of this movie that I think are very true to comics and comic book fans that I think is really cool, and I'm glad that they took those decisions and they ran with it. But there are decisions that were made in this movie that I absolutely despise. Mm-hmm. One of them being one of the main characters of the movie that we'll talk about.
Yeah. It's funny, I've seen this movie maybe 4 or 5 times. I think twice in the theater, and then I saw the unrated version maybe once or twice. Probably I was drinking during one of the showings, just kind of being... I wasn't, looking at it with a super critical lens. Mm-hmm. So going back through this time and taking notes and everything, there's a lot to pick apart in this movie. Just a lot of strange decisions, why did you show me this? Why are we focusing on this? Why is this the way that we're depicting this character? It's there's a lot of... I'm asking questions constantly throughout this movie, based on decisions that the teams are making on this movie. And I mean, I've said it 1,000 times. I'm not a writer. They don't want me to write their movies. But there's so many things in this movie that you could use, it could just use a bandage, a tiny, there's a little there's I don't know, there's little things that you could fix that wouldn't ruin these. We'll get into it when we talk about, but Superman is, I like Henry Cavill as Superman. We talked about this on the Man of Steel episode, is that I really like his portrayal, and I think that he plays a very subdued Superman, and I don't know, the way that they wrote him in this movie, where is it? Where is my trivia? I got, John, do I have trivia for you?
Okay, I'm ready.
Superman has 42 lines of dialogue in the whole movie.
In the Ultimate Cut or in the
whole movie, yeah.
Wow.
42 lines of dialogue.
The theatrical, all of his Clark Kent stuff got cut out. So it might even be less than that.
Maybe.
When we first saw it.
Yeah.
That was one of the complaints that I think we had originally when we walked out. It was that felt like it was a Batman and a Lex Luthor movie more than having Superman in it. It's he was the most supporting role. Yeah,
and not even, I mean, but that's a problem. when your movie's called Batman versus Superman.
And this
like,
is the sequel to the movie that he was already kind of not... He didn't even really have the most prominent role in Man of Steel sometimes, too.
Yeah.
Like, they just don't really give him a lot to work with.
Yeah, I just don't think they knew... I don't think they knew how to steer that ship.
Yeah.
Like, they had this idea for Superman that was going to be more the alien Superman, not like the I'm from Kansas Clark Kent. Like, it was going to be more of the I'm a Kryptonian, I'm proud of that race. And then they kind of like... I think they just fumbled the rock in this movie, like with making him likable, because when you have a movie where Batman is wanting to kill Superman, doesn't trust Superman, and you have this dark, depressed, old aged Ben Affleck Batman, you need to contrast Batman with something light and powerful.
And he's not. He's just depressed the whole movie.
And so and that to me is like the biggest flaw of this movie is that the conflict is not set up well between these two people, and I don't know. I just don't like Superman in this movie. Like, I think Ben Affleck steals the show.
Yeah, definitely. And you could tell that what Zack Snyder wanted to make when they asked him if he wanted to take over DC movies. You know, you could tell that he wanted to make a Batman movie.
Yeah,
he always did. And it's like this is a loose comparison, but it's kind of like how Rian Johnson treated the characters in The Last Jedi. He really liked Kylo Ren and Rey, but he doesn't really care about Poe Dameron and Finn, so he gave them bad storylines, you know?
Yeah.
That's kind of how this movie felt. It's like he's a big Batman fan, and he kind of likes Superman, so he'll give him stuff to do.
Yeah.
But,
this movie makes Man of Steel feel like an obligation.
Yep.
Like, if you don't have Man of Steel, you can't have this movie. But it's almost like they just treat the growth of Clark Kent and Man of Steel as just complete trash. They throw it right out the window. And it's almost like we're starting fresh on this one. Like, there's
it's like they're beginning the universe again.
Right. Yeah. And you really only need to know about Zod. Like, even then, they explain clearly that it's a dead Kryptonian. So it's not like a huge deal to know anything of Man of Steel to get this movie. You know,
is Michael Shannon actually in this movie, or is that a body?
It's his body double. It's got to be. Yeah,
okay.
Michael Shannon ain't coming to act to lay down on the table.
He's not coming to float in the tub.
In an interview with Jimmy Fallon, Ben Affleck said he was warned by Warner Brothers about the possible negative reaction to his casting and was advised to remain off the internet after the casting announcement. He also said for his concerns, the studio showed him negative comments that fans had initially made to previous superhero castings. Affleck said that in spite of the studio warnings, he still checked out an online message board. The first comment he read was, quote, "Affleck as Batman? No!" After seeing that, he immediately went offline. Yeah, dude.
Okay, so
here's the funny thing, though.
Let's talk about Affleck real quick.
Yeah, because
that guy gets shit on.
Well,
a lot.
Do you remember... Because it was, like, I feel like people were super hard on this casting. Mm-hmm. Like, I remember, like, hashtag give Ben a chance that was trending, like, for a long time, where it's like, people were so lukewarm and a lot of critical stuff to this casting.
Do you think that is because of his public persona of kind of being, like, kind of the Hollywood bad boy? Like, there's a lot of people that don't like what he does with his personal life, and... You know, he's had substance abuse issues, or do you think people were still sour about some of the stinkers that he made in the late 90s and thousands, like Daredevil? And
I don't know. I think it's a combination of all that stuff. I think for me, I was a little lukewarm on the casting because I want Batman to be someone that I like, and I don't really like Ben Affleck. Or I didn't like Ben Affleck a whole lot. I appreciate his work now, but like you kind of want because you don't see Batman. Like, when they announced Robert Pattinson as Batman, you look up photos of Robert Pattinson, you're like, okay, this guy looks nice. He's been in some indie movies.
But once they show you him in the suit.
Yeah, and then you show him the suit, and you're like, okay, cool. This fits. Like, it feels right.
I think one of my takes from way back when was I said that Ben Affleck is the best interpretation of looking like Batman on screen.
He definitely looks comic booky as fuck.
And I still stand by that. I think until we see Rob Pattinson, we'll see. But, like, Michael Keaton had a rubber... abs. I love Michael Keaton, but
turning your entire body to look at
Christian
someone.
Bale got fit for those movies, but he's got more of like the armor thing, whereas like this Batman is he looks like Batman in the comics, which is really cool.
Yeah, Ben Affleck,
even though he doesn't act like Batman in the comics sometimes.
Ben Affleck gained an additional 20 pounds of muscle and reached 8% body fat for his role. And then the armor is inspired by The Dark Knight Returns, written by Frank Miller and published in 1986, and you have a copy of that.
I do,
sitting by the table.
Yeah, right here. They also made his normal suit, not just the armor one, but his normal suit, the build of being like the big, like massive Batman that is.
Right.
He has trained his body to be larger than the average human so that he can just subdue people. Is kind of like what Frank Miller was doing. Is just like he's just gonna get big, like really big.
This trivia, man.
He's not a ninja as much as he is like
right.
a wrestler,
like a tank.
Yeah.
Ben Affleck stated in an interview that he had asked if he could have the Batsuit when filming was complete. The producer said yes, but that he would have to pay $100,000 in order to keep it. Affleck quickly changed his mind and asked if he could just take a picture with it.
Man.
Yeah.
I wish he kept it. He probably can't fit in it right now, unfortunately. But
I've got one last fact before we get into the plot.
Okay.
A rough cut of the film was shown for the executives at Warner Brothers. Take this one with a grain of salt, by the way, because this is IMDb trivia. We don't know the validity of a lot of this shit. A rough cut of the film was shown for executives at Warner Brothers. They were reportedly so impressed that they not only gave the film a standing ovation, but also began negotiating a deal with Ben Affleck to have him make 3 solo Batman movies rather than the original plan to make only 1.
I remember that. I remember they were talking about having him do a trilogy. And I was for it, because I like him as a director. And that's kind of what I wanted to talk about was... I mean, I was hesitant about his casting, like a majority of the internet.
Right.
But... You have to remember this was coming off of the Ben Affleck resurgence, and it started with
Argo, I'd say.
Gone Baby Gone.
Oh, right.
Then The Town, which he directed, both of those, and then he directed Argo and won the Oscar.
Yep.
And then he was in Gone Girl, which is a really
that's right.
It's a really good Ben Affleck performance in that movie. And then they announced him as Batman, and it's like he just had 4 home runs, so like he was ready to jump back in the comic book world. Yeah, so I don't know. It's interesting. Like this was the pinnacle of his resurgence, and then after this, it went back downhill. It's actually pretty tragic because like he has some really really bad substance abuse issues.
Yeah, it was after Batman v Superman, but before Justice League, right, where he started to like.
Drinking like a fish.
He started drinking like a fish, and
his marriage fell apart with Jennifer Garner.
Gained a lot of weight.
You can
tell in Justice League.
In the Justice League reshoots, you can see when he looked a little chunkier.
Yeah, got the dad bod.
He does. And now he's got Ana de Armas.
Ana de Armas. All right, John. Let's get into the plot. Let's get into the meat of the bones.
Yeah. Okay. Batman v Superman, Dawn of Justice. Buckle your seatbelts, kids, because it's gonna be a bumpy ride.
It always starts the same way. Or he talks about the dream, right?
Yeah. So the movie opens with a montage sequence with the credits of Ben Affleck doing a voiceover as an adult. We see young Bruce Wayne attending the funeral of his parents. We also see the flashbacks of the night that his parents were murdered, and his parents are played by Negan and Maggie from The Walking Dead.
Yeah, interesting. Like, I remember seeing that casting and being like, "Oh, this is going to be cool," but they're in it for.
Well, it's the Waynes. They're never in it for the long haul. The most that you get is Batman Begins,
and that's my favorite interpretation, man, for sure. Like, why do we follow Master Bruce?
Yeah.
Oh shit, man.
Like they're actually able to splice his parents into those 3 movies a lot more beautifully. Right. However, I do really like Jeffrey Dean Morgan a lot. I think he looks like Thomas Wayne.
Oh, for sure.
I like Thomas Wayne to have a mustache. And the Batman Begins one doesn't, but this one does, and he rocks it.
Looks good.
But they do a cool job of sticking to the Dark Knight Returns, where like the guy puts the gun in the necklace, and when he shoots it, it pops the pearls. It's a really cool visual. I don't think we need to see the Waynes die in every Batman movie, but they seem to keep wanting to show it. And with his dying breath, Thomas Wayne says, "What's that name again?" Yeah, Martha Wayne. Martha Wayne. Not Martha Kent.
Nope.
2 different people.
Very
Same
different
name,
people.
though. It's pretty interesting.
Yeah, when the credit... I have my notes. when the credit came up for Chris Terrio, my note just says, written by Chris Terrio, Rise of Skywalker, baby.
Yeah, he does like exposition quite a bit. Also, going back to how we feel about Zack Snyder's love of Batman more, Ben Affleck gets the top bill for this movie.
He does. Yeah.
It's Ben Affleck, then Cavill, and then I think Amy Adams. I don't really remember the order. But I just thought that was interesting.
Yeah.
And when we saw it in the theater, when they led off with that, I was like, wow, they're going to lean heavily into the Bat, which as a Batman fan is cool.
Yeah. I mean, the whole not cold open, but the opening of the film is Batman-centric.
Mm-hmm.
We don't really get, and then immediately after that, we get Bruce Wayne's view of the events of the end of Man of Steel.
Yep.
So not until Superman isn't really mentioned or shown, except for the destruction, until how long into the movie? And
20 minutes?
And it immediately
When
paints
they're in
him
Africa?
out. Yeah, it immediately paints him out to be like
Crazy.
a disaster. Yeah.
So we have the opening, and he falls down the well,
Right.
kind of like he does in the majority of Batman incarnations, and he gets lifted up by the bats. And when we were in the theater, we were like, "Oh God!" No. But then at least he's like, "In the dream, they took me to the light," and we're like, "Whew, okay."
He says like the dream ends the same way every time, or something like that. Yeah, and we're like, "Oh, thank God."
Yeah. So then it gets this really weird title card that they only do once in the movie, I think, and it's like, this such and such date, the world is introduced to the Superman or something like that, or a Superman. It's very strange, but it's like this huge white title card, and I remember it being really bright and strange. And it's, like you said, it is a ground view perspective of what happens in Man of Steel from somebody that we did not see in the last movie. And I actually thought that this was pretty cool.
I did too.
This is actually one of my favorite scenes.
Yes, I agree. 100%.
So we get a super cut Affleck with the athletic vest.
He's wearing the vest. He's wearing the suit vest and the slightly unbuttoned shirt.
Yeah.
And man, giving Tom Cruise a run for his money in terms of running.
Dude, he's hustling.
He's got the perfect form.
Yeah, so Affleck hops in the Bat Jeep.
I wrote that down. First product placement,
Yep.
Bruce's Jeep.
So he's driving through the city. He's got his own light, which I don't know if that's legal or not. But maybe if you're a billionaire, you can just cut through traffic.
Does he have his own?
He puts like a yellow light on top.
Oh shit!
Yeah.
Oh my god!
So he's just weaving throughout traffic. Shit's falling apart. The world engine's destroying the city. And he's on the phone with the guy who runs his financial building.
He's keeping these workers
who is
here.
Keeping the workers working in the middle of this huge crisis. Like the fact that there is scenes in this opening sequence where you can see from the office building window the world engine like 500 yards away, like smashing stuff, and he's still like, "Oh, hey, what's up, Mr. Wayne?" And he's like, "Jack, get everybody out of the building now." And he's like, "All right, boss man says it's time to go. Let's go." It's like,
it's ridiculous.
It's like Wayne's driving these people like slaves, man.
Yeah.
Like they're not going to leave.
Again,
are you kidding me?
Highs, and then immediately followed by lows.
Yeah.
Like I was like, because he lands in the thing, and besides the product placement thing, which bothered me, but that's just because I remember them. There was not a trailer. There was a commercial for the car that he drives before this movie when we saw it in
Turkish
theaters.
Airlines. Which
That's
is
right.
Also another product placement
That's right.
later on.
And so, but all things aside, like I was like into it. I'm like, this is great. Like I love the panic in people. Like it's like footage of 9/11.
Yep.
It's like they're trying to show that terrible destruction and on a giant, massive scale. But then you immediately cut to this scene where the guy's in the office, and it's like, this is the most. Why? Like, why even have? It would have just been so easy to have people like he gets on the phone with Jack because he has that connection with Jack. That's fine, but like in the background, you could have just shown people like leaving, like running. You don't need to have a line where it's like, okay, now it's time to leave. Like. Again, like little bandages.
I'm also
There's,
surprised that given that Zack Snyder likes to kill off principal characters, that it wasn't Lucius Fox.
Right.
But the one part I do like about the Jack scene is that you get to see from his perspective Zod and Superman like coming towards the building, and like they crash a couple floors beneath his feet. I thought that that's a pretty cool.
Yeah, it's cool.
Shot.
It's a cool shot. Like all of this is shot well.
Yeah, well, and that transitions into the part of Man of Steel where Zod figures out how to use heat vision.
Yeah.
And it cuts apart this building, and the building starts to fall down, and that's when he tries to call him, and it's like, your voice box is disconnected.
Jack!
And Jack is praying. He decided not to leave. He's just going to stand there.
It's like,
and
I'm
watch.
here, I'm down.
He's
fuck
like,
it.
Captain goes down with the ship, apparently.
Captain goes down with the building.
But yeah, so the building crashes. We get the huge dust cloud, and this is the shot of Tom Cruise, Ben Affleck running.
It's like
through
Mission.
running
It
through
looks
the smoke.
identical to that shot in Rogue Nation.
Yep. Yeah, definitely. So Bruce Wayne, he runs right into that. The dust kind of settles, and there's a really cool shot. It's kind of like Game of Thrones, season 8, like the horse is going by.
Right. Yeah.
Everything's wrecked. There's a teacher leading a group of school kids, which I think is one of the extended editions.
Definitely. I don't remember that in the theater.
Which, like, did they go to school in the financial district?
I
Like,
don't know.
why the hell are they there?
You know, Gotham, weird city. Mm-hmm. They got schoolhouses, and we're about to get into some geography here in a little bit.
Right.
But
so then we meet one of our favorite characters, Mr. Wallace Keefe. What do they call you, Wally?
You're the boss.
You're the boss.
Okay, so hold on. I got to pull up that actor.
Scooter McNair, something like that?
Scoot McNairy.
Yeah, McNairy.
Right? Yeah. Scoot McNairy is Wallace Keefe, as he's listed in the thing. But this guy he's a Wally. Is this character like canon, or this is just completely new?
I think they made this guy up.
So this guy is also...
A lot of people thought he was gonna, because IMDb leaked that his name was Wally. A lot of people thought he was gonna be Wally West, who is one of the Flashes. But he's not the Flash.
This guy ain't Flash.
Somebody else is the Flash.
So this guy is best known for being in an indie film called Frank. He was in 12 Years a Slave. He was in the indie film Monsters.
He's like extreme racist in 12 Years a Slave, I'm pretty sure.
And then he also is in Argo as a character called Joe.
Yeah, he's one of the people that is hiding at the Canadian ambassadors in Iran.
Yeah, so obviously he's been in a Ben Affleck film. He probably has a good friendship with Ben Affleck.
Yeah.
This guy, terrible in this movie. Just atrocious. Like, I thought that his acting was awful.
Now, that being said, the character idea is pretty interesting. So what happens is Ben Affleck finds him, and his legs are crushed by an eye bar that fell off of the building. Which will eventually lead to him losing his legs, as we find out later on. So he has a face-to-face with Bruce Wayne. They get paramedics. Bruce Wayne sees a kid who's about to get crushed by falling debris, and he moves like Batman really quickly through and grabs her. Mm-hmm. And
cool shot.
I
really like that shot a lot, yeah.
I like this part where a little bit of the Boston accent comes out, and he's like, "Who are you? We're going to find your mom." You notice that? He says, "Mom." And she points up to the wrecked building. Her mom is dead, thanks to the Kryptonians. And that is the linchpin for Batman becoming an asshole.
Yep.
Well,
I think he was an asshole before this, too, because...
I guess it is only 18 months later, so yeah, he was probably killing people.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. He's a goddamn murderer in this movie.
Just drinking whiskey and
shooting people.
That's Ben Affleck Batman.
Listen, and this isn't Ben Affleck's fault. The Zack Snyder version of Batman puts Gatling guns on everything. Anyway, so that sets the stage for why Bruce Wayne does not like aliens.
Yes, and and like we'll talk about, this is all the motivation that you need. Mm-hmm. This is a perfect setup that I think uses the end of Man of Steel well.
I like it better in this movie than I did in Man of Steel.
But the next problem is, again, with the script, they have this great opening with Batman in Gotham and the destruction, or in Metropolis, sorry. Mm-hmm. And they set this up, but then they spend the next 45 minutes continuing to establish Ben Affleck's hatred of Superman.
2 hours.
Do you know what I mean?
The next 2 hours. They don't fight
until
the 2 hour mark, dude.
So it's like, and you can't help feel, at least I did while watching this critically, that this movie is wasting my time.
It is.
It's kind of disrespecting your time at some points, because it's like, you could have cut right from this to the scene of them meeting for the first time in the car yard or whatever, where it's the "Do You Bleed" scene,
the
right?
harbor.
Right. Because you immediately understand that Batman is doesn't like Superman. He's scared of this alien. He's seen the destruction firsthand. But then you have to spend, like you said, another 2 hours continuing. He's got to get the mail with the "you let your family die."
We'll get there. Yeah, save it.
Okay, yeah. Keep
We're
going.
gonna keep dying because unfortunately we have to cover everything. So we jump to 18 months later, somewhere in the Indian Ocean, which is they're gonna do that again in Aquaman. Just wait. And there are these guys that are diving in the wreckage of the World Engine from Man of Steel. Correct?
Yes.
Yeah. It looks like a big squid, but it's not. It's the World Engine.
Yeah.
Because if you remember, they don't say it explicitly in Man of Steel with a subtitle card, but they say that, you know, one's above Metropolis, the other is on the other side of the globe in the Indian Ocean, and that's where Superman has to go fight the squid arm thing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. So there's these divers. They're just apparently Lex Luthor is paying somebody to supervise villagers to go look for rocks. So these two guys find a large chunk of what we all know is kryptonite, but they never call it that in this movie. They just call it the deterrent or a rock.
Yeah, I mean, I get that. It's kind of it's goofy to say kryptonite in this universe. You know, you can get away with saying something like kryptonite or an Infinity Stone
They
in
say
Marvel.
Mjolnir.
In Marvel,
It's
these movies they're trying to be.
They don't lean into the goofy part of it until
Yes.
Aquaman and Shazam.
Yeah, they're
when
trying.
they really start to go into it.
It's what they realize.
Save it.
Yeah, I know. They wanted to start this universe off, and they were like, well, okay, so we're behind the game. When Batman v Superman, Batman v Superman came out, Civil War had already come out. That's like the 15th.
It was about to come out.
About to come out. Sorry, but that's like the 14th or 15th Marvel movie. So Marvel had been rolling this train for a while.
It's the third cap, and it's after 2 Avengers films.
And so they're like, well, we need to play catch up. We need to start getting into the what do people like? Why are these movies making money? Oh, it's because they have all these heroes. They have all these characters and all these heroes. We need to quickly get there as fast as we possibly can. But we don't want to be Marvel. We don't want to copy them. So let's make our universe grounded, gritty, and dark. And in that universe, you can't use the word like kryptonite. It doesn't work with what they were trying to do.
So anyway, they find the rock, and this guy who's working for Luthor, I guess, is like, cool, we got this rock. So then we cut to quite possibly the greatest scene ever filmed in Africa. I'm just kidding.
What about the one? Oh wait, that's in the Sahara.
Yep.
Yeah.
So we get to a blistery desert, and we have Lois Lane, who's looking great. Amy Adams, as always.
Looking fab.
Meets this new kid who's her photographer assigned instead of Heron. It's this new kid called Jimmy Olsen. Ever heard of him?
Heard of him.
I've heard of him too. Too bad he's not going to be around very long. But their job is that they're going to interview an African warlord in the Sahara Desert. And this guy only does secret meetings, obviously, so they got to put bags on their heads and they get taken to this compound. And when they get to the compound, you may notice that there's African warlord and his guys, and there's also these like this movie sucks, dude. There's like these Russian special forces dudes, led by Anatoly Kanayev, also known as the comic book character KG Beast, who is a long-running Batman villain. He does not wear the suit in this movie, but it is the same guy.
Okay.
He's just an assassin from
Interesting.
Russia. Yep.
I didn't know that.
If you're interested in this character, you should read Tom King's run on Batman, where Batman hunts the KG Beast down into the middle of the Siberian Arctic, and they fight it out. It's awesome.
Okay. This is also one of the most. We should touch on. This is like the most probably one of the most extended sequences in the movie.
Yes.
Like this entire thing gets just. There's a little bit more stuff in the movie. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So anyway, there's these security contractors that, Lois is inquiring about, and she's like, how do you pay for this? He's like, who pays for the drones? He's like talking about this stuff. But anyway, they're doing the interview. Jimmy's got a little camera, and somehow KG Beast instinctively knows that there's a tracking device in there. So he takes the camera and he exposes the film, finds a little tracking device, and he automatically knows that it's from the CIA. So, he knows this stuff, I guess.
They're just up on it. I think they must have had prior suspicions. That's the only way I can justify that terrible decision.
I mean, maybe Luthor hired Jimmy Olsen as the photographer via the CIA, and we just don't even know about it because this movie is so heavy on exposition.
Yep.
But anyway, so this warlord gets pissed, and he shoots Jimmy Olsen in the head, and one of the most principal Superman characters is gone in like 4 minutes after meeting him. And that's when you know
we're in for a wild
you're
ride.
in for a bumpy ride. So yeah, Olsen gets popped, and then we have these U.S. military, I guess they're CIA agents that look like Nathan Drake in Drake's Fortune.
I mean, they're
Drake's Deception.
Drake's Deception. They're all dressed for the desert.
Yeah,
so.
they're all dressed for the desert, but they're like camping out, and they got horses, and they're like, we're gonna move in and go rescue Lois Lane. He's like, nah, dude, we'll send a drone, and the guy's like, no. And they're just like arguing and like, why do we care about these people?
Yeah, what is happening?
Who
This
cares?
is all stupid. It's all exposition for Superman dropping in.
Yep. So that being said, everything's going crazy really fast because now the security contractors double cross the warlords guys and they just start popping them like crazy. They're shooting everything. Lois's book gets shot. The warlord takes Lois into a room and he's going to hold her hostage. As the CIA guys are riding their horses towards the compound to get Lois Lane, as the other CIA agents back abroad are sending a drone to blow up the compound anyway. So that's cool.
Tons of info. Tons of info.
And then Superman, who loves to destroy military property, smashes through another drone, and he lands in this building where Lois Lane is being held hostage. And while he's doing this and having this conversation, or he's not having a conversation really, he's just looking at Lois. KG Beast and the security contractors get a flamethrower out and start burning bodies really quick before they hop on their motorcycles and get the hell out of there.
Yeah.
And we will talk about why they're doing that later on, so stay tuned. And Superman, he has Lois Lane release the guy so that he can fly really fast and kill that guy as he goes through a wall. There's no way that guy's head doesn't pop off.
Eviscerates him.
That man is dead. He's straight up dead.
He goes through like 3 walls.
He's dead.
So Superman kills in this movie.
He does kill that guy. Yeah. He's also killed in the last movie too. But
yeah.
We already talked about that.
Yeah.
So he flies through.
By the way, what an introduction for Superman.
And Lois Lane. It's actually a better Lois Lane introduction than Superman. She's doing her job.
I am saying that sarcastically. I did not. I've seen it all.
So then we cut to Holly Hunter, who plays some senator.
There is that UN testimony thing.
That's what we're doing right now. She's
that's
interviewing
and then she
this
talks to the woman
whose parents apparently lived in the African village, and this woman is saying that Superman showed up, came out of the sky, and he burned everybody alive. And I think he does not answer to anyone. I think not even to God. And then Holly Hunter's like, Superman's got to be held accountable for what he does. And she's a Democratic senator.
What he does?
She's a Democratic senator from Kentucky, which would never happen. Let's be honest. She's going to be a Republican senator. She's from Kentucky. But anyway.
Jeez.
Just saying.
I did not think this scene was terrible.
It's not, but
that one line.
I think not.
Yeah, right. Okay, that line is trash. That's a terrible line. But
again,
I think
Zack
everything
Snyder
that Holly
likes to
Hunter
talk about
says is
God.
fine.
He
Yeah,
does. He really does. So then, this movie cuts. So get ready for me to say "so then" a lot.
Slipping inside.
So then we get to 2 cops who are clearly wasting our tax dollars by watching college football in their cruiser.
Yeah, this 17-year-old boy, this 17
fresh out of the police academy.
he's like trembling with the thing as he walks in.
They get a call that there is some noise or something going on at a building, and they respond to the call.
Yeah, right.
Okay? So this is also kind of loosely taken from Dark Knight Returns. There's a scene where the Rookie meets Batman for the first time and he freaks out and almost shoots his partner. But what happens is they come in and they discover that apparently there's like a human trafficking sex dungeon run by this Eastern European guy, and the women are freaking out because Batman came in and probably killed everybody in the room except for this guy.
He's still here.
They're like, he's still here. The devil came in.
They treat Batman like a horror movie.
I know, he's like a monster.
Jason.
So they find, or the Rookie, I should say, finds this guy, and he's like chained up to a pipe, and he's got the bat symbol burned into his shoulder, like his chest area.
Yep.
And he's like, "Oh my God, he branded him."
Oh my God!
And so
Jesus Christ!
the rookie looks around, and somehow Batfleck is hanging from the ceiling like an actual bat and flies away somehow.
This scene is just as bad as it was the first time, if not more.
It's rough.
This is a horrendous looking scene, and the one thing that I will give Zack Snyder is I visually think that he is usually really great visually. Story stuff aside, I think that a lot of shots in his movies, I think he uses like the every frame a painting sort of mindset, where it's like every single shot you want to like look aesthetically pleasing from top to bottom. Where are things put? What does it look like? How, what do the colors of the scene tell us? But this fucking shot of him with the gun light looking at the thing, and you see Batfleck hanging there. It's the most awkward looking shit.
Yeah. So this rookie cop just lets the gun fly. He's just like, it's like me in The Last of Us with the clicker. And he's just trying to shoot Batman, and he almost shoots his partner in the face.
Yeah.
And he's like, I saw him. I've never seen him before. It's like, yeah, it's because you just graduated high school.
These extras, man. These random character actors they got for these people. Fuck.
Yeah. So anyway, they arrest this human trafficker, and they're like, oh my God, he branded him. And we'll talk about the brand as it goes on.
Yeah.
Then Lois Lane is unpacking her suitcase from her wonderful excursion to sand and sun in the Sahara.
She drops a bath bomb in there.
She drops a bath bomb in there. She's got blood on her clothes. She's looking at her book, and she sees that there is a perfectly undamaged bullet lodged in her book, which she takes out with a piece of tweezers and decides
how that didn't get taken from her at security.
No idea.
I have no clue.
Well, maybe Superman flew her back.
maybe that's a good point.
But they're not going to explain that. Why would they?
Yeah.
So she decides, I'm going to study this bullet while taking a bath. So she sits down in the
bath.
As
one does.
And it's kind of hinted at that she's recovering from PTSD from this traumatic experience.
She's a little stressed.
Of watching her boyfriend kill a warlord by smashing him through a wall.
A few walls.
Yeah, so she's looking at the bullet, and Clark comes home. He's got groceries and flowers, and he's like, oh, I didn't know you were here, which is stupid because he has x-ray vision and super hearing, so of course he would know that she's here. But anyway, and they're going to make sweet, sweet love in the bathtub.
He
fully
jumps clothed
with the shoes on.
Yeah, so motherfucker walking around Metropolis, he's got like dog crap on his shoes. Lois is like, this is hot.
Mm-hmm, yeah.
I don't know.
So she's like, you're gonna flood the apartment. He's like, you up and down.
Okay, so the concept of this scene, I like. I like seeing Lois and Clark at home, hanging out.
They've been living together for a year or so,
right?
Because it's 18 months since the Man of Steel incident.
Yeah.
So
I like this concept a lot. The way it's executed is just awkward. Again,
yeah. But the big point of this one is right before they take a bath. She's talking about how like people are blaming him, and he's like, I don't care what they're saying. He's like, I'm gonna save my girlfriend.
I'm gonna kill more warlords.
If I have to kill warlords to keep Amy Adams safe, I will. But honestly, like same. And then we get
I like that.
Then we get Bruce Wayne in the Batcave. And I like the Zack Snyder Batcave a little bit. I like how there's always water trickling in because it's like under a lake, which is kind of cool. But he is in the Batcave, and we get introduced to our newish iteration of Alfred, played by Jeremy Irons, who might quite possibly be the best part of this movie.
Yeah, you could say. I wouldn't disagree with that.
He plays Alfred really well.
Yeah,
he plays Alfred like some of the newer iterations of Alfred, which is Alfred used to be
like an operative,
an operative for Her Majesty's government, and so like he knows a lot about tech and weapons and all this stuff. So they kind of make him the perfect Alfred for this Zack Snyder like monster fighter Batman. Like he needs like a guy who's also killed people before probably. So anyway, we got Alfred. He's working on the voice modulator, which is supposed to disguise people from understanding Bruce Wayne's voice, which I actually like.
I like it
more than Christian Bale having to kill his own vocal cords.
In the film, Batman wears a voice modulator in his suit to electronically alter his voice. After the casting of Ben Affleck in the role, this was an idea that had been suggested by his friend, director Kevin Smith, as he felt Affleck's natural speaking voice was too high-pitched for Batman.
Shout out to Kevin Smith for that backhanded dig.
It's awesome.
Yeah. So anyway, so we get this. One of my favorite lines from this sequence is, Alfred saying, "Even you got too old to die young, but not for lack of trying." And this Alfred is like, he's drinking whiskey and he's jaded all the time. He's just like, he's done with this war on crime in Gotham. They've been doing it for 20 years. He's probably seen Ben Affleck get like 5 Robins killed and who knows what else. And so he is trying to get Bruce Wayne to come back to his sense of morality. Yeah. And he drops,
this is the line where he's like criminals or something.
We've always been criminals.
We've always been criminals, Alfred. I like
Nothing's
that line.
changed. And he goes, "Oh no, everything's changed." Drops that newspaper with the Bat Brand Justice article, and he's like, he tells him, you know, that this is how it starts, the fever of the rage that turns good men cruel. He's got some great lines, as Alfred usually does.
Yeah. Chris Terrio, when he wrote this scene, he was giving it his 100% all.
This was going to be his Oscar clip.
Yeah. And then everything else. This movie, they ran a campaign for this for the Oscars.
I'm sure they did. And I'm glad it didn't win. But Batman tells Alfred that he is looking for something known or someone known as the White Portuguese, and that he is able to track it to Anatoly Kanayev, who is our friend that we saw in the Sahara Desert earlier. But Bruce Wayne does not know that he was in the desert. He just knows that he is in Gotham potentially trying to bring a dirty bomb in with the assistance of the White Portuguese. Or at least, that's what he tells Alfred. So yeah, Alfred says he sees the Bat Brand. He's like, "We got new rules," and he's like, "Nothing's changed," as we all talked about that. And then our next scene is when we get introduced to my least favorite part of this movie, which is Jesse Eisenberg's Lex Luthor, and he's just shooting threes, baby, NBA Jam
He's draining
style.
It, yeah.
Is
it the shoes?
LexCorp has their own basketball court, which I think is pretty tight. They try to make him like Mark Zuckerberg-esque Lex Luthor, a younger person who inherited his father's company. And I just think that was the worst decision that they could have made. So, why don't you tell me a little bit about Lex Luthor? Because I have my own personal feelings about that character, and that's why I hate this iteration so much. But when we saw it the first time, you weren't completely down on it. You didn't like his deliveries and stuff like that, but you like Jesse Eisenberg, right, in The Social Network?
Yeah, so The Social Network is one of my favorite movies of all time, and I love Jesse Eisenberg in that movie, but that is maybe the only movie I really like him in. Because
you don't like him in Zombieland?
He's fine, but Woody Harrelson steals the show in Zombieland, and Woody Harrelson in
Tallahassee, baby.
Yeah, Tallahassee. Did you ever see the sequel?
No.
I heard it was bad. I didn't see it.
I'm sure it's just like eating chips, you know? You're just going to keep eating.
Yeah, right. But here's the thing, it's like, I've seen this movie 5 or 6 times. Jesse Eisenberg, I want to like him. I want to see him branch out and do different stuff because I think that he gives such a great performance in The Social Network. And so I like the idea that they were casting him to be like a younger, techie, millennial style, Silicon Valley Lex Luthor. I think that's cool. What I don't like is that they made him, I think God bless Jesse Eisenberg, I guess, but homie just went a little too hard.
A lot too hard.
Yeah, it's like they gave him like kind of, I feel like they gave him, all of his lines feel like ad-libbed. You know what I mean?
So it seems like they let him do whatever he wanted.
Yeah, they were just like, be you, be a little crazy, be a little weird and off kilter, like maybe like you got some imbalance. Like they're like, act like your character from Social Network, but like maybe if you did crack cocaine.
Yeah.
and so, but I like the Jesse Eisenberg stuff because it's campy and goofy, and it reminds me that superhero movies can be fun. And I just love his delivery of, he drains the 3 and he goes, "Ahoy, hoy, Senator," or whatever.
So here's what I don't like about it. I don't like any of the stuff that he has to do, to be honest with you. Maybe a couple things. We'll talk about that later on. But I don't like how he seems to be playing they want him to be like paranoid, right? So he's like, he seems like he's always looking over his shoulder. Right. But we talked about this a long time ago. He was playing the Riddler, is what he was playing. But it's supposed to be Lex Luthor, and it's very weird. And he's like you said, they kind of just, it seems like they just let him say whatever he wants because he says some bonkers shit. Lay low in the morning, Lois Lane, and Martha. And
you do not want to pick a fight with this man. Right?
Yeah, we'll get to that later on. But anyway,
he also, I'll just throw it in here.
He just makes weird squeals too. He's like, It's like,
he's like kind of like doing like a Joker almost too, like a little bit of Heath Ledger inspiration there, maybe like with the erratic hand movements and like the
Except for one of them is an
sounds and stuff.
Oscar-winning performance and is actually good.
At the 2017 Razzie Awards, Jesse Eisenberg was nominated and won Worst Supporting Actor. Ben Affleck and Henry Cavill were nominated and won for Worst Screen Combo. Chris Terrio and David S. Goyer were nominated and won for Worst Screenplay. And Batman v Superman won Worst Prequel, Remake, Ripoff, or Sequel at the 2017 Razzie Awards.
A clean sweep, if you will.
Yeah, Ben Affleck, Henry Cavill, and Henry Cavill were nominated but didn't win for Worst Actor. And then
Who won? That's what I want to know.
I could look that up.
Who is the worst actor in that year that isn't one of those two guys?
that isn't one of those two men.
Or who's the worst performance, I should say.
Oh, I don't even want to.
We'll look
this
it
is this is terrible.
Look it up.
It's some guy named Dinesh D'Souza. He's in Hillary's America: The Secret History of the Democratic Party. That's
Anyway,
who won that year.
So the Department of Homeland Security is at LexCorp.
Yes.
And they're meeting with him because he's trying to import a rock that he found in the Indian Ocean
Big ol' rock.
that he believes could be used as a deterrent against tyrants. He tells this whole story about how his dad lived in Germany and had to watch communism, and he's trying to set up the fact that, like Bruce Wayne, he hates aliens, and Holly Hunter's there, and she doesn't want him to weaponize things against Superman, and he clearly is not a big fan of Superman at all, but she is not going to want him to import this rock. But the other guy that she came with isn't completely against it, and he gives Lex Luthor a free pass, and he asks what he wants while Lex Luthor is fishing for some Jolly Ranchers in a bowl. And
So dumb.
and we get this weird.
This is where it crosses the line
Yeah.
from funny, campy to
Strange.
the worst thing I think I've seen in a long time.
We get this weird montage of him checking out the Kryptonian ship that has crashed in Metropolis, and as well as experimenting on Zod's body.
Yes.
And he's cutting off fingertips off of Zod's hand, and he does this weird thing where, like, he's motioning for them to bring Zod's body closer, and then when it gets too close, he tells them,
Stop it right there.
He also, I like when they're doing the airlock thing, he's got his hands and his face pressed up against the glass, and then the door opens, and he picks up his briefcase, and he goes in.
In what might be one of my least favorite shots of this movie. This is supposed to be, like, the villain, ramping up. You're supposed to be starting to, like, oh, okay, cool, we got a bad guy.
His Adidas.
His fucking shoes and stupid ass pants that don't fit him at all, that are just like bagging and dragging, and he picks up the briefcase, and it's this long shot of him walking, and I'm like, what is? How did this make the edit? How did they not cut this? It's terrible. Terrible.
Lex Luthor is supposed to be a cool, calm, collected businessman who is arguably the smartest human being on Earth. And they just make this guy seem like a crazy mad scientist the entire time.
Coked out of
he
his
even
mind.
makes his own Frankenstein later on, and we'll get to that. I have a note that says his voices that he does kill me. So, like, when he does, like, Southern accents and, like, German accent, like, he does, like, these accent things where he's like, we can't depend on the kind.
This is strange.
It's like, I hate when he does that kind of stuff.
It makes my skin crawl. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's the hair stand up on the back.
So
of
then
my
our
neck.
next scene is our other favorite supporting character, Wally, who is now in a wheelchair.
I hate this scene.
He's very angry, and he's going to go deface the Superman monument, which I thought was interesting that they built the man a monument in Metropolis after he destroyed the entire town on accident.
And this is another problem. It's like the conflict of this movie is Ben Affleck being there, seeing this destruction, hating Superman, and thinking that he should be, like, brought to justice. But never at a point in this movie do we see someone root for Superman. We never see someone root for Superman. Everyone hates him. There's people protesting. The only stuff that you get is that montage of him, like, saving those people on the roof and stuff.
And they don't even seem that happy.
No, they don't at all. They look depressed.
They look scared.
Yeah, and kind of terrified. And yet there's a monument to this person in Metropolis. It makes literally no sense.
No sense at all.
Absolutely.
And it doesn't seem like they like him until, spoiler alert, until he's dead. And then everyone comes out of the woodwork to go to his monument and his funeral and stuff. It's just, it's like you said, like, you need the happy.
Yes.
To contrast Batman's dark, dismal ways. Because that's not, he can't be happy. He's not Adam West. And they don't do that with Superman.
No, it's
and they
so
don't.
frustrating.
The only person that might be in his corner in this movie, besides Lois Lane, is frickin' Neil deGrasse Tyson.
Neil deGrasse. Oh, I forgot that he shows up on the news network.
I love that part. He's great.
I thought you were confusing Lawrence Fishburne with Neil deGrasse Tyson for a second. And I was like, oh wait a second. No,
he's not even on Superman's side that much either.
No,
he just wants to do the news. He's like J. Jonah.
He's Jonah. Yeah, he's a Jonah.
So anyway, he goes and defaces this monument, and they're like, "Hey, get down from there!" And
he's like, "Yo, don't do it!
Don't do it!" He's like, "Buzz off!" And he like sprays and he writes "false god" in red spray.
And these cops are standing 10 feet.
If this was the real world, they probably would have just shot him.
Yeah, just pop, pop.
Yeah,
sit down, boy.
Just shot him. But instead, they arrested him.
Yep.
So then we get to our first sequence at the Daily Planet. Where we
End of love affair with Man in the Sky.
Yeah, we got our boy Larry Fishburne.
Larry Fishburne.
That's what he went. He used to go by that.
Really, I didn't know that.
And then he, right before Matrix, I think he
changed
was like,
it to
"I'm
Lawrence.
going to be Lawrence again."
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah. Anyway, so Larry Fishburne wants Clark to cover the Gotham Metropolis sports game, the college football game. Which, by the way, I want to watch that. I want to watch that game because you know that Zack Snyder had them play a full football game and film the whole thing. But like Metropolis won like 68. It was like the Pats beating the Dolphins last year.
Right.
Do you think Antonio Brown went to school at Gotham or Metropolis?
AB probably plays for the Gotham.
Yeah, but they don't score any touchdowns, so I don't know. Anyway, he wants Clark to cover the sport thing, and then like on the news, people are like complaining about Superman. You see the false god thing, and he's like, "End of love affair with the man." This, whatever you just said. And this is where we keep to see depressed Clark Kent Superman. He's just sitting there frowning all the time. Lois keeps looking at him like, "Oh boy, I wish my man could be happy," but he's not.
Is this the scene where he says I have this trivia fact. I'll bring it up now because it fits. In one scene, Clark says to Perry, quote, "When the Daily Planet was founded, it used to stand for something." Perry responds with, "Yeah, and if it were 1938, you could too." Action Comics #1, featuring Superman, was published in 1938. Cool. I thought that was neat.
Yeah, there's a lot of neat little things. They also, the unit number for the two cops that we just talked about, their car unit, it's DC-27, which is Detective Comics 27, which was Batman's first appearance too. So pretty interesting, cool little stuff there. Too bad it doesn't save the movie.
Yeah.
So then we start to see, these are the large extended scenes that weren't in the theatrical cut, but we see Clark Kent doing some investigative journalism. Because he is looking and he sees that there's this guy named Batman, or just the Gotham Bat is what they call him in this movie, and he's branding motherfuckers. So
left and right.
So Clark Kent decides to go digging because he doesn't think that this is how you do justice, and he's looking for that African lady that testified against him, right? Or actually, he's not going to find Batman yet. He's going to look for this lady.
Yeah, he's tracking down like the small leads. Like,
she's not at the apartment, and the guy's like, "You better get out of here before nightfall, because when it does, he gets hungry and he is angry." And he's like drawing the bat symbol on his scratcher.
Facepalm, man. That is the word. He shows it to him.
He shows it to him, and he's like, and then that's when you know that they're trying to set up Clark Kent not liking Batman, because we already know that Batman doesn't like Superman from the beginning. And now, this is what the theatrical cut actually needed, was us finding out why Superman might not like Batman.
Yeah. For sure.
Anyway, so then Bruce Wayne is at an underground fighting ring.
It's so
where
stupid.
They're like doing boxing, but they're not in a cage or a arena at all. They're just like people circle around him, and these two guys are beating the shit out of each other.
It's like Fight Club.
And this guy's about to get his ass whooped, and then Bruce Wayne like whispers something in his ear, which I don't know what he said. Maybe he's like, "Punch him in the balls" or something like that. And then the guy gets back there and whoops the other dude's ass, and Anatoly Kanayev loses the fight, and we realize that the reason why Bruce Wayne is here is because he's trying to clone that guy's phone. So they go to the bar, and they're talking to each other in Russian, and he's like, "Spent 3 nights with the prima ballerina. That's the only thing she ever taught me, you know?" And he's like, "I'm sure she taught you something else." And you're like, hey, you know what it is.
Also, I don't think phone cloning works like that. But
I don't think so.
I'm guessing that it's Bat Tech.
It's
Bat Tech, yeah.
Yeah, for sure. So anyway, he clones his phone because he's trying to get to the White Portuguese. So these plot lines jump back and forth the whole time.
The whole time, yeah.
Stay buckled in. So then we go back, And Clark returns to Metropolis. He still hasn't talked about football at all or written anything about it.
Yeah.
And he's asking Perry if he can do this Bat story. And then Perry has one of my favorite lines where he goes, "Crime in Gotham. Water.
Wet.
Yeah.
Good line. I like that.
And
that
then
a lot.
Lois comes in with the prototype bullet that she found, and she's like, "Crime analysis labs, they can't identify it. What is it?" He's like, "It's a bullet. You shoot people with it." He's like, he's snarky as all get out in this movie.
I like him in this movie. I think he's got charisma.
Mm-hmm. So Lois wants to go to DC to get it analyzed, or potentially have the military look at it. And he agrees, and he tells her she can fly coach, and she wants economy plus. And he says, "Coach, Lois, coach."
No legroom.
No legroom, yeah. And then he sends Clark to a library conference hosted by Lex Luthor. He had an invitation where they requested Clark Kent personally.
Yep.
Which I really like this line because he's like, "Why me?" And he's like, "I don't know. It's probably some old librarian's got a thing for nerds." So yeah, Perry White. He's shooting threes this whole movie.
Yeah. So before, because the party scene's coming up, right?
Yep.
So before that, though, we have the shots of. I really like the again, Zack Snyder. He's schizophrenic with how some of his shit looks in this movie, but the shots of him walking around Wayne Manor, I was like, this looks great. Mm-hmm. Like it's lit really well. It
Did
looks
they ever
so
say
moody.
why Wayne Manor got burned down?
I don't think they ever specifically say.
Because he's just living at the lake house or in the Batcave. Yeah. And it's like that through Justice League too. And then okay. Mm-hmm. Interesting choice.
I bought the bank.
Mm-hmm. Bought the bank. Big round table with 7 chairs.
Yeah. And
room for more.
And Alfred here just slugging whiskeys.
There's a scene later where he's chopping wood, and I was like, "Damn, Alfred, you fucking getting it."
Yeah, dude.
In a world where they make Hot Aunt May, of course they would come up with a sexy Alfred. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
But before we get to the party, Holly Hunter and Lex Luthor, they're gonna go have a word in his office, and he's drinking Kentucky bourbon, and he's got his little
Kentucky girl like yourself.
The red capes are coming. The red capes are coming. It's like he's in the Wizard of Oz sometimes, dude. It's so.
Yeah,
weird.
I don't think he knew what planet he was on. Like,
but anyway, you might be right. Maybe this Lex Luthor is supposed to be on drugs. I have no idea.
He's unhinged. He's like erratic. We'll get to it later on, but he looks like. Toward the end of the movie, like on the tower, like he looks unhealthy. So, I don't know.
But anyway, the point of this scene is that he's continuing to want the import of the rock, and she's blocking it.
Yeah.
And she's not going to let it happen, and she's not going to back down from him. And she tells him, "You can piss in a jar and call it Granny's peach tea. I'm not going to drink it." And that's important for you to know.
That's very important.
It's very important for you to know.
Before we move on, I've got 2 trivia facts for Jesse Eisenberg that I forgot to bring up during his introduction.
Drop it like it's hot. Let's go.
So the first one is that Jesse Eisenberg walked to set disguised every day for shooting to hide the look of his character. And I remember that being kind of a big deal when the first photos of him leaked, where people were like,
"Why is
he's
he
not bald?"
Yeah.
And then another one here. You might know this one. Before Jesse Eisenberg was cast as Lex Luthor, Matt Damon, Bradley Cooper, Joaquin Phoenix, and Adam Driver were on the Warner Brothers shortlist to play the part.
Which one would you want?
Selfishly, Adam Driver.
I want Matt Damon because I want Ben and Matt to be in this movie so bad.
I think that would be funny, but
that'd be hilarious.
It would be funny.
Adam Driver would probably be the best though, but
no. I don't know. Joaquin Phoenix would have made a really good.
But then
Lex
we wouldn't
Luthor
get
too.
the
I know exactly. You take what you get.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So again, still leading up to the party,
Batman's
having a dream where he's walking through a wheat field like in Gladiator, towards the Wayne family mausoleum, and he gets in there and he's looking at the grave things, and blood starts leaking out, and he touches it, which is gross, ew. And
why would you do that?
This bat monster jumps out of the grave and strangles him, and he wakes up and he's in bed with some very attractive looking lady at his lake house, and there's just clothes and wine bottles everywhere. It's what Zach's house looks like right now. And
we've been drinking.
So Alfred wakes up and he comes in and he's got a line that they had from Dark Knight Returns, which is like, "I hope the next generations of Waynes don't inherit an empty wine cellar. Not that there's likely to be a next generation."
Cool.
And then he just like shrugs and gives him a coffee. He's like, "Whatever, Alfred." But he traces the phone from the KG Beast to Lex Luthor's house. And he's like, I'm going to go break in. And Alfred's like, you don't even have to, because Bruce Wayne got invited to the same party invitation that Clark Kent did. Coincidence?
I think not.
Definitely not.
I love bringing people together.
So now we're at the party, which this is what one of the trailers started with, which is Bruce getting out of the car.
Wayne
and he's like,
Clark Kent.
Well, yeah. Well, first it's like, he's like, who's that? And he's like, oh, that's Bruce Wayne. And I remember in the trailer being like, wow, this is really cool that they're going to meet. And then the other thing they show in the trailer is Bruce Wayne meets Clark Kent. Wow, he's got a strong grip. I would not want to pick a fight with this person.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's just terrible.
Yeah, and Lex's speech, too. Oh, my God.
That's what I was... Yeah, we're going to get to that.
Oh, my God.
But
it's so bad. It's so bad.
So Gal Gadot is at this party, and we knew going into it, because they ruined it in the trailers, that Wonder Woman was going to be in this movie. But her character, Diana Prince, is also at this gala, and Bruce Wayne definitely has got an eye for sexy ladies, so you can see he's like side-eyeing her the whole time. And then...
Can you imagine if we didn't know?
It would have been
how much better
so
the
sick.
experience would have been.
So sick, yeah.
Because then it was the final trailer, like
where they ruined the entire movie.
Yeah, because it played before everything that year. So it's like they show you Abomination, they show you Wonder Woman, they show the fight, Doomsday. Sorry, not Abomination.
You're good. It's the same thing.
But it's like, yeah, man, they spoiled so much going into this. It's kind of amazing.
So Lex Luthor's got this terrible speech where he's trying to quote Greeks and Latin and
it's
talking
so
about
bad,
books
man. The
and
dialogue,
philanthropy, and it's horrible. But while he's doing this, Bruce Wayne is trying to get Alfred to show him how he can access Lex Luthor's computer. And Clark Kent, having super hearing, is also listening to the earpiece. Yeah. And what happens is Bruce Wayne goes downstairs to the hard drive, which anyone can apparently walk into. There's no lock on the door.
No.
And one of the great Lex Luthor sidekicks is a character named Mercy Graves, who's actually a cool character in the animated series, but Zack Snyder doesn't care about Superman characters, so she's going to be completely benched this whole movie and then eventually murdered. But anyway, she comes in and tells Mr. Wayne, like, are you lost? And he's like, yeah, I was looking for the bathroom. I think that last martini was too many.
Love this. I think this is one of the scenes where I was like, okay, this is working for me. Like Ben Affleck's performance is really working because
he
plays
his heart out in this movie.
Yeah. He plays Bruce Wayne in this when he's not Batman. He plays Bruce Wayne as kind of like more suave than what we've seen in the last
a lot more
few
suave
years.
than Christian Bale.
Oh yeah,
Christian Bale's always like angry when he's Bruce Wayne.
He looks when Bale's Bruce Wayne, he looks like his character from American Psycho. Mm-hmm. Like he just is like calm, collected.
The best time that Bale is Bruce Wayne is Batman Begins, because in
is
the
that the scene where they're eating at the restaurant and he jumps into the fountain?
Well, that and
Sir, there's no
I
baby.
like when he goes back to the party in Batman Begins and he's like pretending to be drunk. And
yeah,
he's like,
right.
Thanks for coming and drinking all my booze.
Yeah.
Get the hell out of here.
Yeah.
And he's like, go home.
This
I don't
party's
want
over.
you.
Yeah,
This party's over. And the guy's like, the apple has fallen very far from the tree. Anyway, but we're not talking about the good Batman.
No, we're not.
So Mercy Graves is like, get the hell out of here. And Bruce Wayne just goes, I like those shoes. Which is the best ad-lib of the entire movie.
I wouldn't put it past Chris Terrio for putting that line in there.
No, that's got it. Kevin Smith talks about this on like multiple pods after BVS. He's like, I've directed Affleck for 10 years, and that is something that Affleck would just be like, I'm going to throw in a line, Smitty.
Smitty.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe they wrote it in. We'll never know. Maybe
see.
Ben Affleck will
we'll
tell
never.
us if he does a commentary for this movie ever, which I would kill for.
That'd be interesting. I don't think he wants to think about this movie
him,
ever again.
And it's just him. That's it.
I would watch this.
It's
shit
just
out
him
of it.
shitting on the movie the whole
It's
time.
like this
That would be
fucking
pretty
sucks.
funny. So anyway, so he goes back upstairs because it's going to take 7 minutes for Alfred to clone the computer. And he loves cloning his tech. It's interesting. And we get our first interaction of Clark Kent meeting Bruce Wayne. And I actually do like this scene a lot. So Clark Kent's kind of like trying to poke at him about being like this bat guy who hangs out in Gotham. He's pretty out of control and stuff like that. And Bruce Wayne's like, oh, really? A guy who works for the Daily Planet that writes puff pieces about an alien that can kill people? Yeah. He's like, maybe it's the Gotham in me, but we just don't like freaks dressed like clowns.
Yeah.
And everyone was like, oh, it's a Joker reference.
It's cool.
It was cool.
Yeah.
And then Lex Luthor ruins it by coming up and everything that we already talked about.
Yeah. Oh boy.
My note says good conversation, then Lex fucks it up.
Yeah, this scene had you need to hold that tension. Like that line is great. That's one of the best written lines in this movie, and I'd say it's pretty iconic at this point. Like,
Freaks Just Like Clowns.
we have a bad history with Freaks Just Like Clowns because
like it.
It's a cool line. It gives so much backstory without even being very overt, and then you want to hold that tension where you see them looking at each other and you understand this is and then you get Jesse Eisenberg coming in. They didn't know what tone they wanted in this movie, and it needed editing. Like, I think it's funny. Like, the longer cut of the movie helps with the story and make things make more sense. But this movie needed way more trimming.
It needs to be like 2 hours.
Yeah, slim it down.
Yeah. So anyway, so the time's up. Bruce goes back downstairs. Clark Kent's following him because he doesn't trust him, and Diana was already out of the room. And he gets downstairs, and as Clark's following him, he looks at the television, and there's a fire at the Day of the Dead festival in Mexico. And there's one single girl trapped in a building. And so Superman's going to go be heroic, and we'll get to that montage in just a little bit. So he pieces out. Bruce gets to his thing, and his device is no longer there because Diana stole it. And he follows her outside, and she's got a sick car, and they lock eyes, and then she gets in and drives off. Party over.
I don't think you've ever known a woman like me. Isn't that's this scene
No,
as well?
that's
later?
a little later on.
Oh, shit. Oh, damn.
Dude, this movie has a lot of scenes. So the next scene is the montage of Superman saving the girl from the Day of the Dead, and then he lands in the crowd, and he gets his Christ-like image again, because Zack Snyder thinks Superman is God, and everyone's, like, putting their hands on him, like Daenerys in Season 3 of Game of Thrones. Misa! You know what I mean? And we get the Hans Zimmer doing the score, so boom, boom.
Well, it's Hans Zimmer and Junkie XL.
Right, of course. Who could forget?
Could forget?
And so we get a montage of him doing cool stuff, like he's dragging a boat across the ice, he's catching a rocket ship that blew up, he's saving people off the roof. And during this is actually one of my favorite scenes, which is several news clips in a row, and people just arguing about, and this is like the cool real world perspective of like, the question is, must there be a Superman? Which I think is actually a really interesting idea for a Man of Steel sequel, but not something that's shoved into this movie.
It just feels like it's a side plot in this, because the real conflict is Batman versus Superman. They're two ideologies.
Yes.
But then, they felt the need to throw in this exposition where
Superman.
exactly. It doesn't fit.
But yeah, this is the scene where DeGrasse Tyson is in there talking about Copernicus and stuff like that, and you know how people don't believe what they don't understand, and all that kind of stuff. And it ends with Superman just sitting on the couch watching the news, and he's like, God, he like looks down, you know. He's like, it's like he's so sad, and also where's Lois to be comforting him? This entire time? She's busy working.
Yep, she's got stories to write. She took that plane to go track the bullet down.
So since he's super sad, who else would he call besides his mommy? So we get a phone ringing, and we see the Kent farm, which is fixed after Zod threw a truck to the ceiling. This won't be the last time though that it gets destroyed, I'm sure.
Does it get destroyed again in Justice League?
I don't remember. No, they just go to it.
They just go to it.
Yeah,
okay.
And they almost lose it to the bank. That's what it is.
Right.
Okay. It almost gets financially destroyed.
Okay.
So Clark calls Martha Kent and wakes her up, and she's like, and he's like, why didn't Dad ever leave Kansas? And he's like looking back on his child, and he's super sad.
He's such a sad sack, man.
He's such a sad sack.
He's like, I don't know.
But anyway,
it's weird. He looks like Toby from The Office.
So she's just trying to reassure him about like why his dad wanted to be there, and he's like, she's quoting Jonathan's line, which isn't a good answer to that question, where he just goes, "Why would I leave? I got everything here," or something like that. The way she says it, it's really weird. But anyway, so he calls his mom, and we'll get back to Martha Kent much later on. So then we get an extended cut scene, which is Lois in D.C. hanging out with the girl from the Hunger Games, who has this really weird wig. But they are analyzing the bullet, and she's going to eventually take it to the general from Man of Steel, General Swanwick, who was supposed to be Martian Manhunter, apparently, if you believe that. But then
it's weird. I wonder when they would have set that up.
We get back, and Wally got his bail posted by somebody. They won't tell him who he is. He goes and buys some oranges, and he's wheeling into his house, and Lex Luthor is in his apartment in a new robot chair, and he spins around. And we get the one F-bomb of the movie, which is, what the fuck do you want? And it's delivered horrendously.
God, Christ.
So my two least favorite characters get a scene together, which is great. And so Lex gives him this chair and somehow convinces him to want to testify on Holly Hunter's Senate committee about how Superman ruined his life. And he goes and he asks Holly Hunter if he can. And he's like, but I want Superman to be there. And we're like, that's weird. Why would he want that? We'll get to that.
We'll get to that later.
So then we have another extended scene where the KG Beast is talking to some random prisoner in Metropolis. And the guy that Batman brands at the beginning of the movie gets transferred from Gotham prison to Metropolis prison.
Yeah, I forgot
And whenever
about this.
you go to Metropolis prison with the Bat brand, everyone hates you and thinks you're like a child murderer or something. And so they, KG Beast convinces this guy on behalf of Lex Luthor to shank this Bat dude so that they can take pictures of his corpse and eventually send it to Clark Kent.
So
What an idea.
Convoluted. Ridiculous.
So Clark gets like an envelope sent to him at the Daily Planet of Polaroids of this dead guy with the Bat brand that says like judge, jury, and executioner, the Bat is bad, blah, 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 blah. And it's continuing to fuel his fire for not liking Batman, supposedly.
You okay?
Yeah.
Do we need to take a break?
In a little bit.
Okay.
In a little
All right.
bit.
We got. There's a good halfway point. I feel like
We have a sequence that I want to talk about, and then we can take a break because I'm going to be really mad after we talk about it. So Lois sneaks into the men's room where General Swanwick is washing his hands after taking a leak, and she's like, "I need you to examine this bullet." And he's like,
I love how casual he is.
He's like, "You got big balls. With balls like those, you belong in this room." It's just like it's just a stupid line. And
terrible line.
And then we get back to the Daily Planet again, and Clark and Perry are arguing about this Bat piece because he looks at his college football thing and it's blank, and he's like, just the goddamn Gotham Bat thing that I told you not to write about. And he's like, he decides who's judge, jury, and executioner, and he shouldn't. Then Bruce Wayne finds out that Diana's going to some museum function. And this guy is trying to get it with a lady who's much younger than him, so he goes to show her Alexander the Great's sword. Bruce Wayne sneaks up behind her, and he's like, it's a fake. The real one hangs above the Sultan, blah, 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 blah. And they're having their little meet cute in real life. And he wants his thing back, and she says that she stole it, or borrowed it, sorry. She borrowed it because she wanted to get a photo back that Lex Luthor stole from her. We're going to talk about that photo soon, right?
We will.
So he goes like, 9 out of 10 people in a dress like that, I've met tons of girls like you. And she's like, I don't think you've ever met a woman like me before.
Gal Gadot has 16 lines in the film. She has 2 more lines in the extended cut. Gal Gadot is the first non-American actress to play Diana Prince Wonder Woman. She's also the first actress to perform the role in a theatrical film.
She's good. She's great.
Bunch of people I don't know auditioned for this role. I
think they were trying to go for the Mediterranean heritage to try and do that for the Wonder Woman movie that they eventually do.
Jamie Alexander was reportedly the runner-up for the role.
She got Sif. Right?
She's in Thor.
Anyway,
yeah, there you go.
So she's like, I didn't steal it, I borrowed it. And she's like, I put it in your car. It's like Bruce Wayne's leaving his car unlocked, I guess. Or is she supposed to be a better detective than he is? I don't know.
have no idea.
So, here we go. You ready?
Here we go.
So, Bruce Wayne takes
Bruce Wayne
the flash drive home, and he's got to decrypt the encrypted flash drive, which is Lex Luthor's home computer. And while he's doing this, he gets sleepy. So, he falls asleep. And while he's asleep, he has the biggest acid trip dream ever, what is known now as the nightmare sequence with a KN.
Night with a K. And this is a recurring segment on Radiovania's DCEU in review. It's Zach has questions for John, the comic book DC expert.
Do you want me to talk about the scene first, or do you want to ask me your questions?
Well, the question is very surface level.
Yeah.
It's just, is the nightmare KN nightmare? Has this happened or been established in any Batman canon ever?
It is a combination of a couple of things.
Okay.
One of which you probably know about, which is Red Sun.
Yeah.
The way Batman looks and the way Superman has his own guards with the S patch on them. That's kind of like Red Sun. It's supposed to set up the War of Apocalypse on Earth, which was set up in the Final Crisis comic book, which is where Darkseid fights Batman and eventually destroys him.
Okay.
But no, this is not something that was explicitly taken. It's just a lot of pieces pulled together to create this Snyder version of Hell on Earth.
So then before you get into the rest of the scene...
It's also taken from Injustice, too.
Okay.
Did you ever play that game?
Injustice 2?
No, like Injustice TOO.
Oh, I did play Injustice.
So the first Injustice and the comic Injustice is about the Joker kills Lois Lane, and then Superman kills the Joker and goes bad. That's kind of what this leans into a little bit too.
Okay. Yeah, so then, like I said, before you get into the rest of the scene and we kind of like pick it apart a little bit, I think this is kind of iconic.
It's one of the more memorable parts, unfortunately, of the movie.
Yeah, and the fact that they created this idea.
Is a big deal.
Like this whole concept, the fact that
this
we're going to have a scene.
To be what Justice League 3 was. We'll talk about this at the end of the pod. Yeah. It's actually very interesting. Mm-hmm. Zack Snyder was on, Vimeo or whatever. He released his 3-story arc for Justice League, that what it was supposed to be.
Really? Mm-hmm. Oh, interesting. Are they still available to watch?
Yeah, probably.
Okay.
There's people have done transcripts of it, though. Okay. I just want to read it.
But yeah, so this, they when they were writing the script, they said, we got this idea for a scene that's going to be a risk. Mm-hmm. It's going to be a big risk for us to do because it's got a lot of inside baseball stuff.
Oh, yeah.
And I think that they didn't do I think my biggest problem with this upcoming scene is they don't do a good job of making this scene accessible to people that aren't avid comic readers or know the lore. This is a very confusing scene that it looks fucking rad.
Yeah. I would watch Mad Max Batman.
Exactly.
Sure, yeah.
It looks so cool, but then you start to think about it for longer than 1 second and you're like, it's information overload. I don't know. That's all. I think it's I think it's an interesting scene. I think it's flawed. Mm-hmm. But I think it's just kind of interesting that it's now kind of iconic. The nightmare.
The problem that I have more with this is his second dream within a dream that we'll get to after this when the Flash shows up. But essentially what happens, and visually, you're right, it's really cool, is Batman, he's got goggles and a trench coat, and he's clearly been going to war for a little while on Earth. Mm-hmm. We are suspected to believe there's the big Omega symbol in the ground, which is your clue that it's Darkseid. But like you said, if you're not a DC Comics fan, how would you know? Mm-hmm. And
the sirens are on our end.
Yes.
If you're driving your car.
Yes.
Sorry. Let's let that pass.
Yeah. Shout out. So Batman is going to do a deal in the middle of the desert again. They're going back to the desert, but he's trying to buy a hunk of kryptonite from a truck.
Hunk of burning kryptonite.
Yeah, from the back of an ice cream truck. And he's got his own little militia, and there are these guys that are selling him the rock, and they open up the box, and it's just a green light, and they double-cross him, and they kill his guys, and the Superman soldiers start gunning people down, and so does Batman. He pulls out a pistol and an assault rifle, and he's just killing people. Mm-hmm. And he's fighting a lot of guys, which is pretty cool. I don't like that he shoots people, but he's got a crowd fight going on. And then these things start flying from out of nowhere, Zach. Yeah. And they're the Parademons, which is another hint to Darkseid and Apocalypse, unless you don't know about it. In which case you're like, why are these moth things flying around? They knock him out. He wakes up, and he's chained up in some underground sand bunker. Superman lands, does the super landing.
Fucking cool.
Walks in, laser visions everybody besides him, and rips the mask off. And he says that, she was my world, and you took her from me. And we are led to believe that he's referring to Lois, but they don't actually say it quite yet. But you'll find out that it was Lois. And
Or it was his mom.
Maybe. It's supposed to be Lois, though. She's the key.
Well, yeah, but that's also the Flash being I think it's all convoluted. It's all convoluted because,
anyway, in this dream, Superman rips out Batman's heart, Malaram style in the Temple of Doom. Right? He punches him and kills him. So Bruce Wayne wakes up, and there's a big flash of light. Papers are flying everywhere, and there's a guy in a Transformers Power Ranger suit, and he's like, Bruce!
I hate Bruce. This so much. It's so awkward, man.
Fear him. You were right about him. It's Lois. Lois is the key. Find us. Am I too soon? I'm too soon. And Bruce Wayne just looks like he's like, what did I drink last night?
Yeah, he opens up another bottle of whiskey.
And then he's like, I don't have much time left. And then and Flash disappears, and then Bruce Wayne wakes up again from that dream within a dream to see that the encryption is done downloading.
Yeah, I don't know, man. Where do you go from here? What do you even say?
I think we should take a break.
Okay. And we're back.
And you know what we're gonna do? We're gonna talk about the white Portuguese, baby.
Yee fucking ha, dog. Here we go.
So the file is encrypted, or decrypted, I should say. And Alfred is like, yo, what did you discover? He's like, the white Portuguese isn't a man, it's a ship, and it's coming into Gotham. And he's like, oh, but it's not carrying a dirty bomb, is it? And he's like, no, it's carrying a rock. It's a deterrent for, potentially being able to use it. And Alfred asks a really good question where he's like, oh, you're going to get it, so to destroy it, to get it out of Luthor's hands. And he's like, no, I'm going to make it into a weapon. And we get the cool line delivery. He's like, he is not our enemy. And he's like, 20 years in Gotham, Alfred, how many good people are left? How many stay that way? Which is a really, I want to see Ben and Jeremy Irons, like, actual Batman story of those 20 years. Because I think that would have been pretty cool. But we just get allusions to it in this movie.
Another fun fact about Batman, we'll drop this little nugget in here. I'm sure that you remember reading about this too. Richard Armitage, Orlando Bloom, and Luke Evans were all in the running for Batman.
Richard Armitage would have been cool.
I think Richard Armitage would still make a good Batman. Mm-hmm. He's not that old.
Yeah. He could do it.
Get in there, WB.
Get in
there. Reboot it again. Let's run it back.
Run it back.
So yeah, what's next?
So Clark Kent is in an added scene. He is at a prison, and he wants to interview the guy that got branded, and he finds out that he's dead and got shanked. Mm-hmm. But coincidentally, that guy's baby mama is there, and he's like, hey, I want to talk to you about your husband. She's like, he wasn't my husband, but he was a dad, and what happened to him is wrong. The bat shouldn't be able to decide, who gets to live and who gets to die. And the only thing that's going to stop him is a fist. And it's like, okay, so you want him to go fist Batman, all right. So then we get to the Gotham shipyard, where Batman is going to go intercept the rock before Luthor gets it from the white Portuguese. It's an action sequence where he gets in the Batmobile and he's chasing the KG Beast and the Rock, and he kills so many people, and he destroys the entire shipyard. And Batmobile runs over people and shoots missiles at people. It's crazy.
This is the fight where he like hooks the car and runs the car into another car, right?
Yep.
And it just explodes into a fireball.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. It's also when he flips a car over and it tumbles into like an office space, like a shipyard office space. It's like everybody in that car is dead. Everybody. So anyway, he doesn't get the shipment because Superman shows up and he runs into Superman and crashes the Batmobile. And this is where we get what was
I like this moment.
Yeah, what was shown in promos where Superman rips the doors off. Again, destruction of property is his MO. And, he's like, the next time you see your light in the sky, don't go to it.
The bat is dead. Bury it.
And again, it's like he's very, very...
He's
really mad. He's like, don't kill any more people inadvertently.
Daddy Superman hangry.
And so Batman stands up and we get the, tell me, do you bleed? You will. After
he flies away.
Yeah, that's what's
It's the stupidest line. That line would have been so much better if they just waited to use it until the scene on the rooftop. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I don't know. Whatever.
So he goes to the Batcave, and he tracks the Rock to Luthor's headquarters. Mm-hmm. Lois gives the bullet to the General in the rain, and she's like, you gotta check it out.
The audio mix in this scene, I couldn't understand a word that bitch was saying.
It's so... the rain is so
it's
loud.
like... Yeah. And then... Go back, do some ADR.
Superman sees on TV that people want him to come to this hearing. We're just going to speed through some of these. He is back in Kansas at this point, and he sees that they want him. and he's talking to Martha, and she's got this really cool line where she's like, "You don't owe this world a thing. Be anything you want them to be, or be none of it." You know what I mean? Like, your dad was just always trying to protect you, and we knew that this world wouldn't be able to understand you, but you don't owe us anything. Yeah. Like, you were a gift.
Again, the Superman character being treated, not the Superman character, the circumstances that you create by being a superhero are portrayed as a burden for Superman. They're portrayed as like being a weight on his shoulders and a rock that he has to carry. Mm-hmm. And like, it's just, I like the concept, but again, it clashes. It doesn't work with like how gritty and dark Batman is. Like, it's just so depressing.
Yeah.
I had my note here. I paused it at this point and realized there is an hour and a half left.
Yep.
Woo-yee.
Yep.
Yike.
So these are all tiny little scenes, so that's why we're kind of moving quickly here.
Yeah.
But the African woman from the beginning of the movie that was in the first Senate committee thing who said, "Not even to God." She comes in and she tells Holly Hunter that she has a confession, which we find out eventually is that she lied. And she was paid for and provided a script from Lex Luthor to read at that hearing, and that her parents aren't actually dead, and that she wasn't even at the village, and Superman wasn't actually there and showing up and killing people. Well, he was there, but he didn't kill all those people. Lois figures out that the metal is developed by LexCorp from the General, and she knows that he was set up for an ambush in the desert, and that he might be set up for another ambush. So somehow she's going to get all the way from D.C. to Metropolis in like 10 minutes, because this hearing's about to go down.
About to go down.
And then Lex Luthor is at the hearing, and she's walking up, and that's when she's telling the other guy that like it was fake, and the woman confessed, and he goes, "Looky, Senator." You know, it's like Jar Jar Binks.
Lisa gonna die in here.
Yeah, and he's like, "You were gonna be on the hot seat in there, Junebug." And she's like, "I grew up on a farm. I know how to wrestle a pig." It's like, I'm like,
what is dialogue?
I'm like, what are they talking about?
So bizarre.
You know Holly Hunter plays Elastigirl, right?
That's really the only big thing I know her from is Elastigirl. But yeah, her voice.
I like her accent. But they give her pretty.
They give her shit lines. They give her shit lines, and they make her unlikable. Like, she's not like. She doesn't have. You don't root for her. Like, I feel like this courtroom scene would have been better if they gave her something to empathize about, like the audience to empathize with her, so that you feel bad when she blows up. But I don't feel a thing. I didn't care about anybody in that room
besides Superman.
Yeah, and he's fine. Like, I don't know. Keep going.
So, so they're watching. Bruce Wayne is working, and he's watching television, and Wally's like, you know, Superman is not a hero, and he's like, look what he did to me. And he's like, I've been living homeless, and my wife left me, and I have no money, and
he's got no legs.
And and then like Bruce like calls like the financial department. He's like, Gary, get Gary up here right now. And the guy comes up, and he's like, why hasn't he been getting our severance checks or whatever they provide for him, disabilities insurance or something. And they got the copies of the checks, and this is gonna have to be out of order because the scene jumps around to like 5 different places. But he's looking at the checks, and he's like, they all get returned, and he's like, why am I just finding out about this? And that guy's probably gonna get fired because he's terrible
or killed.
Yeah. But on the check is like all this red writing, which we now find out later on in the movie is that Lex Luthor uses red crayon and writes on things and sends them to people. But it's like, you know. You let your family die, Bruce Wayne, open your eyes, you're blind, all this kind of stuff. And they don't say it, but it's Lex Luthor has been getting the checks before they get to Wally, and he's returning them so that Wally gets mad, so that eventually he can convince him to testify and give him a new wheelchair with the bomb in it that he can go into the Senate committee building and blow it up so that people think Superman killed everybody in the Senate committee.
It's insanity, my dude.
Oh,
it's
my
insanity.
Goodness.
But here's the thing is that I really do like this concept. Like, I like, again, a lot of the things in this movie. I feel like I've said that sentence 5 or 6 times.
Probably, yeah.
I like the concept. The execution is just poor. Because
trips to the finish line.
The idea of Superman being the last one standing in this giant UN explosion where dozens of innocent people are killed, and it's like he couldn't stop it. That should be a huge moment, and the shot I'll never get past it because it's everything's on fire and he's still standing there in the same position, no emotion. Absolutely no emotion on his face.
I know. He just looks upset, like
dead stare.
Damn it, it's
like,
happened
fuck,
again.
man. Shit.
But before all that happens, that African lady gets pushed into the subway by the
Oh, I
KG
forgot about
police.
that. Yeah, right.
That's an extended scene, I'm pretty
Yeah.
sure. Just tying up loose ends, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, Lois was in D.C. and it's the Capitol building, so that's why she was able to get to the hearing so quickly.
Mm-hmm.
But anyway, I do like her showing up and him landing in front of the Capitol building. I thought that was pretty cool.
Yeah, that's cool.
But yeah, what happens is they go in there, and Lex Luthor also pissed in a jar and left it at Holly Hunter's seat, and it says Granny's Peach Tea on it. And she has a cool like speech at the beginning about like we talk to people, and like she turns it around and sees it, and then
she like
yeah, she like trips up a bunch of times,
and it's so long.
It's so awkward.
Yeah,
so
it's
then
awkward
she
as
looks at his empty chair, she looks at his assistant Mercy, she looks at Wally, and then the chair blows up and kills everybody. Like you said,
Yep.
Superman's the last one standing. Everyone outside is freaking out because it looks like he caused it, obviously. And so, yeah.
John is. I want everybody out there to know this is as much of a burden for John as it was for Superman carrying that ship. This is John just carrying Radiovania on his back right now.
So Superman is trying to help get people out of the building that are still alive, and he's dropping them off, and he makes eye contact with Lois, who is trying to get through the police barricade, but they won't let him. He gets really sad, and he shoots off, flies off.
Yep.
All right, not to be seen again for a while. Cut to Alfred chopping wood like a boss, carrying it into the lake house, and he sees that Bruce Wayne is not there, and we get an extended scene of Lex Luthor showing up at LexCorp, and Kryptonite got stolen by Batman. And what I thought was stupid is that he left a batarang in the case that he stole the rock from. So it's like, I know they have security footage of him, so they would have figured it out, but
yeah, right.
Batman doesn't leave calling cards. All right, he's not Spider-Man where he leaves notes on people or anything like that.
Your friendly neighborhood Batman.
Yeah, so I thought that was dumb. So then we get Superman is at his peak depression. He goes to Lois's house. She's trying to call him.
He's standing in the rain.
He's standing out there, and he's super sad, and he's like, Superman was never real. And he's like so depressed. And she's like, this is your world. He's like, my world doesn't exist anymore. And he flies off. And it's like, oh
it's
my.
so weird. Man.
Oh my god.
What is this choice?
So then, Lex Luthor goes into the Kryptonian ship, and he puts the key thing in, and the lady's like, ship is operating at 37% capacity. Would you like to assume command? And he's like, yes I would.
Yes, I would.
And it's like, okay, so the Kryptonian ship just lets whoever is there take over.
Doesn't even matter if you're, human,
Kryptonian or not.
frog,
Yeah.
you could be a bird.
You just have to say yes.
Just gotta go, beep.
And it also asks them in English, which is strange.
Yeah, interesting, too.
So then we get the Ben Affleck workout scene, and he's gearing up for war. So this is a montage of him creating weapons out of the kryptonite rock, while also training in his home bat gym, which consists of
a tire,
a large hammer, some rusty chains, and a pull-up bar, and some weights that you can drape the chains around your, what'd you call it, thrust bucket?
The thrust bucket.
And you do your pull-ups, and you take the sledgehammer, and you hit it, and you also tie the rope around the tire, and you pull it towards yourself while the rain's dripping down in there, because you're under a lake. And he's also being Tony Stark at the same time. He's forging gas bombs and a spear out of the kryptonite.
So I remember, we'll get to it when we talk about Justice League, but the comparisons a lot of people made to DCEU trying to make Ben Affleck Batman kind of like the Tony Stark of that universe. You see some hints in it in this movie, which I think is interesting. Like the self-made building, like the kind of leading the squad in some points. Like it's interesting.
Well, in the comic book world, technically Iron Man was kind of stolen from the idea of Bruce Wayne, which is a billionaire who has the funds, who wants to do good. What can you do with that money in tech and your own brain? And
right.
You can become a hero.
But Batman is usually not like the one to want to team up with people.
No.
So.
And they're depending on who writes the Avengers comics, Tony's the same way. He doesn't want to be a team player, which they hint at in the movies every now and then. But yeah, they try to make him the Iron Man of the DC universe. He's going to be their guy going into this movie. And when they leave, Gal Gadot's going to be their guy.
That's right.
So he's working out. He's getting ready. I have a note that says the Bat Gym is lit.
The Bat Gym is lit. I agree with that statement, 100%.
And then while he's also doing this, after the spear gets done, he is looking around on Lex Luthor's desktop, and he finds a file for metahumans where people at LexCorp have created icons for different metahumans with symbols like a C and a W and an A and a lightning bolt. And I said, who the hell made these icons? But anyway, he opens the W one because instinctively that's the one he has to open first. And it's a photo from 1918, and it's Wonder Woman and her crew from World War I. And this is actually kind of cool that it's the same photo. Like, they took that photo when they made BVS, so that means they had Chris Pine and all these people casted way back then, right? Because they filmed BVS in, like, 2014. So they were sitting on that for a while. BVS was supposed to come out in 2015.
And then it got
delayed to the beginning of 2016.
Okay, yeah. So then, they had those casting choices picked out.
And they had that photo for a while, unless they added that late in production, which is possible. But anyway.
Yeah. This isn't
even the worst of it. The worst is when she reads the email that
he sends her. Later. That's later. That's right. Okay, so this
is just the photo of Wonder Woman.
They should have just left it here.
Yep, but they didn't. They shoved it down our throats. So then, Luthor is still hanging out on the ship, and for some reason he knows that if he puts a dead body in the Genesis chamber, which looks like it's made out of like the amber stuff that is in Jurassic Park,
deep cut.
He knows that if he also cuts his hand and puts blood on a dead man's face, that it'll mutate him into a monster. And the lady's like, the Kryptonian Council has forbidden the mutation of these monsters for centuries. And he's like, where's the Kryptonian Council? And she's like, dead. And he's like, then proceed. And she's like, okay, like Genesis Chamber online, mutation commencing. And it's like, what the fuck?
Another thing where, just like the nightmare sequence, an average moviegoer is not going to grasp what is happening here. Why is he doing it? What are his motivations? He's trying to create this monster just to fuck with them? That's it?
I think it's his backup plan in case Batman can't kill Superman.
Yeah. Okay.
But also, if Batman did kill Superman, then Lex Luthor would have a monster that could kill Batman.
Or him.
Or him. He doesn't know. Yeah. He's flying by the seat of his pants, man.
Yeah. All right.
So then we get Superman's version of the nightmare sequence, which is, I don't know if this is real or not. It's not. But he's hiking in the mountains.
This is real.
His dad's not alive. How is he talking to his dad?
Well, it's real in the sense that it's actually happening. Like, Clark Kent flies to the mountaintop and walks around. Okay. I think he
gets his Ben Solo sequence.
That's what I have written down too. Yeah, they did. This is.
So he's talking, and shout out, we get Kevin Costner to come back, but that's cool. But here's what I want to know. Why is Jonathan Kent, I know it's a vision, but why would Jonathan Kent just be stacking rocks? What's he doing?
He's building something. He can't stop.
What's he building, a cairn?
Yeah, he can't stop. It's supposed to signify, I don't know.
Tell me what
I took it to the fact that it's a bad choice. Don't get me wrong.
Working?
Yes, that's what I took it to, is that like even in death, in Superman's idea of his father, he's just constantly working on something. Like, that was his thing. That his whole life was about having projects and like fixing things and trying to be the dad. And so that's what he sees when he visualizes his dad.
Anyway, it's not the worst scene. It's
no,
cool
it's
to have
fine.
Him. Anyway, so
I just think that it's a bummer that they don't give Jonathan really great lines. Yeah. Like he just kind of shows up and says,
I like the line "hero cake." I sat there eating my hero cake. But he tells that story about how like they were trying to redirect water during a bad rainstorm in Kansas, and they accidentally killed all the horses at the Lang farm, and it washes the Langs away. And like, shout out to Lana Lang, a principal superhero character or Superman character who might have drowned.
Wow.
In this story, I don't know, but that's Clark Kent's like first girlfriend.
Interesting.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, I love the line "hero cake," even though I don't get it. Lois Lane also finds out that Wally Keefe's chair was made out of lead. And also, this is when they start releasing on the news that there was a bomb in Wallace Keefe's chair. So, like, would the public perception start shifting away from hating Superman at this point?
Again,
I think that's what it's supposed to be.
It's supposed to be that, but they don't make it specific. They don't say it for sure. I think that she says like it's suspected that there was a bomb.
Making equipment in his apartment. Yeah.
Again, I don't know.
But Lois, like, is checking out Wally's apartment, and she opens the fridge, and he's got groceries. She's like, he didn't know he was going to die. Why would you get groceries if you're about to die? It's like, well, I don't know.
Maybe he's just psychotic, because
So
people
then-
do psychotic things.
So here we go. We're almost to the fight.
Almost there. I can see the
Bruce
see
Wayne
the light.
is hanging out in the Wayne Manor, which is old and leafy, and there's no windows. And he's looking at the Wayne crest, and Alfred comes up. And I like this part, actually, quite a bit. And he goes, I'm older now than my father ever was, which is something that I think is really cool. And, you know, he talks about, like, do you know what the Wayne family was built on? And he's like, railroads, oil, you know, like cotton or something like that. And he's like, our first generation were trade hunters. You know what I mean? Like, they traded pelts to survive in the New World. And so it's supposed to symbolize that Batman's on the hunt, baby. He's going to be hunting some Kryptonian.
He's the Predator.
Yep, he is the Predator. And then we get Alfred's great line of, so falls the house of Wayne. Right?
Good stuff. It's deep. It's dark. It works. It's just in the wrong movie.
So then Martha, Kent, is leaving her job at the diner. And she gets kidnapped after she's taking out the trash. Then
I don't know why, but when you said that, I was just thinking of the scene from Spider-Man 1 where Ben's like, I'm on my ass, May. And
I am on my ass.
and it's like, poor Martha. She's got a superhero for a son.
And she has to work at a diner.
And she got to work at a fucking Greasy Spoon diner, slinging burgers.
Yeah, like, doesn't she operate the farm? You think she has farm hands, and then she just has that as a side hustle?
Maybe they don't grow anything.
There's corn, though, in Justice League.
They just have plots of dirt, but they don't plant any seeds.
Yeah. I don't fucking know, dude. But so then the fight's about to happen.
Okay.
Batman is in his cool armor from The Dark Knight Returns, and he whips off the cover of the bat signal, flips it on. Which, if he flips that on and he stands there for like 30 minutes, which is what it seems like it does, don't you think somebody from GCPD would have gone upstairs?
Yeah, oh yeah, 100%.
It'd been like, Gordon would have been up there like that, and would have been like, what are you doing up here, and why are you wearing armor?
The only explanation I can think of is that he must have locked the doors.
Okay, they have helicopters. Like,
I know. Again, terrible choice. It doesn't make any sense.
Unless in this universe, the bat signal is not on top of GCPD, but it is in Justice League.
This would have been a great place to seed Commissioner Gordon, because you could have had Gordon being on the phone in the station, and he gets a call.
Who the fuck is up there?
No, he gets a call, and you hear Ben Affleck's voice, and he's like,
Jim.
He's like,
I'm gonna kill him, Jim.
It's just something simple like
don't go to
the roof. Like, keep everybody out of sight or whatever. Start evacuating the building.
Actually, that would be pretty cool if he was like, evacuate GCPD.
Because then you get to see Jim Gordon. You get to see why it makes sense that they're fighting on this rooftop.
And
but
then he hangs up the phone, and Gordon goes, Parker, get out of here. Anyway, Lois Lane also gets kidnapped and taken to the top of LexCorp in Metropolis, which, by the way, geographically looks across the Gotham Bay, and you can see the bat signal off in the distance.
Oh boy!
So putting the cities next to each other was a bold statement. And
I remember my face was the look of disbelief the first time we saw this, and I want to know. This is Zach has questions for John, and
they're not next to each other.
Have they ever been close in any canon? Like, what's the closest they've been?
100 miles. They're close, but they're not across the bay from each other.
I've always thought it was Chicago, New York.
Yes.
Gotham's New York, Metropolis, Chicago. That's like a couple
more
states.
than 100 miles. In the animated series, they go 100 miles, because one time the Justice League has to escape Metropolis, and Bruce is like, we're about 100 miles from Gotham City. If we get out of the city, we can go to Wayne Manor and hide out there from the Hawk people. That's good Justice League right there. But yeah, it's supposed to be like New York, Chicago, Central City, where the Flash is from, is like St. Louis, and then Coast City is like Los Angeles, and that's where Green Lantern's from, right? And Aquaman's out there too a little bit. Mm-hmm. Actually, Aquaman's on the East Coast in like Maine.
Oh, okay.
Right, because that's what we get in the movie.
He likes chili water.
Yeah.
All right, my man.
Dude, I know we get Jason Momoa in this movie, but this movie needs more Jason Momoa. I swear to God. All right, we got to keep moving.
I mean, the gravy trains are rolling.
So Lex is on the roof with Lois, and he is trying to draw Superman out, and he pushes her over the side. I don't even want to talk about their conversation, but she's like, I know what you did. And he's like, you stick your nose where it doesn't belong. Lay low. And they pushes her over the side. Superman shows up, and he catches her, and he lands her on the ground, and they kiss, and he doesn't even say hi, even though he's probably been gone for like a week.
Yeah.
Talking to his dad in the mountains.
Just hanging out in the mountains.
He flies back up there, and we get, boy, do we have problems up here. And he's just like sitting. Oh, God, I hate it so much.
They say, give me one reason why I shouldn't, like...
Kill you,
right? Yeah.
This is a question that I had. How does Lex Luthor know that Superman's name is Clark Joseph Kent and that he knows that Batman is Bruce Wayne?
I think in this universe, everybody just...
They just know who
everybody just knows who everybody is. Like,
that's so stupid.
Like, theoretically, Lex is a genius. Like, they tried and... Like, they don't specifically say that,
figured it out.
If Superman can figure out who Batman is by detective journalism...
He didn't, though. That's the next thing that I'm going to talk about. He calls him Bruce when they go fight, but he never deduces that it's Bruce Wayne.
I think he deduces
Unless it's supposed to be at the party when he listens to his earpiece.
It's a combination of both. I think he has his suspicions.
I just thought it was because he X-ray visioned through the mask. He was like, hey, Bruce, what's up?
Hey, what's up, Bruce?
Yeah.
But yeah, like, they decimated Smallville in Man of Steel. And one of the locations where destruction is the Kent family farm. And I'm guessing your girl Martha Kent did not rebuild that fucking barn herself. They must have had people help.
Mm-hmm. So they're like, what happened? She's like, oh, a bunch of aliens showed up.
Well, it would be so easy for someone to go, oh, Superman, why was he in this small town? The Kent family house was destroyed. Okay, does Martha Kent have any living kin? Oh, Clark Kent. What does he do for a living?
Oh, he looks like Superman.
He's a reporter. He's a reporter at the Daily Planet. Oh,
I like you trying to justify
Superman.
This. I think this is good.
I mean, I think it's just, I don't know. It's a flimsy ground. It's a flimsy platform.
Kind of like the top of the LexCorp building, which sways in the breeze.
But I think it's just kind of like everybody knows who everybody is.
Yeah.
Anybody who's a superhero knows who everybody else is. Supervillain, whatever. Like, no secret identities.
So, what we find out is that Luthor's reason for hating Superman is that he does not have any respect for godlike figures. And he wants to emphasize that he has to prove that Superman is not all good and that he's a fraud, which I think he's kind of already done that up until this point.
This is the one line from Lex that I really like. He's like, if God is
all good, he cannot be innocent. And if he's innocent, he cannot be all good.
Yes, exactly. That's the one line of like, okay, that's great. Seeing
well, and
that
this is the
too.
one part where they actually played Lex. Like, his motivations are what Lex in the comics and the cartoons is like. That's what it always is. So, like, Lex's motivations in every Superman iteration is that Metropolis's favorite son was Lex Luthor. He had grown up there. He had helped the city. He's like the Bruce Wayne of that city. And then Superman shows up one day, and everybody loves him instead. And it's the jealousy that drives Lex Luthor crazy and to want to kill him. They don't really lean that into that much in this movie besides with this line.
Because no one likes Lex Luthor in this movie.
Exactly. And then we get the line that was in the trailers, God versus man. Fight night.
Fight night.
Day versus night.
Oh
Son of
God.
Krypton.
How many
Bat
times?
of Gotham.
How many fucking times did we say fight night?
Fight night.
When this trailer came out.
Oh my goodness.
A million times.
So his plan is to get Superman to go kill Batman to show everyone that he is not all good. And the way he's going to do that is he's got an hour before he roasts his mommy. And I actually do like this part because Superman, you can see Superman's like distraught.
This is the one scene where Henry Cavill gets to emote. Yeah,
acting out like crazy.
I hated the money shot, like the money throwing, like him,
He's like throwing it at him.
It's like ha ha.
I do like him. Like he's like Superman's like got his arms out. And he's like trying to like look at all of them. I'm like, what is he doing? And then he looks down.
Yeah, you're right. The arms thing is a little goofy.
And then he looks up and he's got the red vision. He's like, where is she? And I was like, in the theater, I just wanted him to blast his
roast
face off.
him.
Yeah, but
you can go from one side of the planet to the other side like that.
And you can't.
Roast him, and then just to the warehouse.
He also has an hour. Like He has hearing.
Yeah, I don't get. Yeah.
Anyway, he's like, if you kill the bat, or if you don't kill the bat,
Bring me
Martha
the
dies.
bat's head.
If you don't kill the bat and kill me, Martha still dies. It's like, and so he's like, your mom's gonna die unless you go kill Batman. Is essentially what he tells him.
Yep.
So then Superman goes down to Lois, and he's like, he's got her, Lo. No one stays good in this world. Either I have to convince him to help me, or he has to die. It's like he's having a monologue.
I hate it.
And Lois is like trying to get a taxi. And so he flies off. He says, no one stays good in this world. And they head on over. But before they actually fight, we're going to keep putting it off. Because Diana got out of the shower. She's wearing her robe and she's in the hotel. And she gets an email from Wayne, Bruce. It's just like...
So
incredible
dumb,
how he found it.
Again, like how everyone knows everyone's identities. Bruce
guess.
Wayne's just fucking chatting it up.
He doesn't care. Like people can, like the government can read people's emails, so like they obviously now know that Bruce Wayne is Batman. And
right, exactly.
She's Wonder Woman. So anyway, we get the great. I found your picture. Boys share too is the subject line. It's like I found the photo, but it doesn't belong to you. It is you. Who are you?
It's so stupid.
Where have you been? And then it's got a link to the icons. And we get the shittiest Justice League introduction of all time.
This is the worst.
Which is Diana's looking through all these emails. She's opening the icons. So it's a security camera footage of the Flash fighting a guy robbing a convenience store. It's Aquaman, like, chilling in a sunken boat. And he, like, stabs a drone a little bit. He, like, plays with it. And then he flies off.
I can't tell you how much I hate this scene. I think this is the worst of the worst of this movie.
It's the one cardinal sin that when we left the theater, we were like, that part sucks.
Because it's like it's indefensible. It's so obviously a look at all these cool heroes and we've got their fucking logos designed for some because who designed their logos?
Luthor, I guess.
Yeah. And it's like they don't even give the characters cool stuff to do in their things. Like Aquaman's hype moment is him, he swims out and he like holds it for a little bit, a little too long, and then he stabs it.
And then he swims off.
And then Flash like saves a guy at a convenience store, right?
That's probably the best one.
That's the coolest looking one, but then there's also the Cyborg one, which is just like fucking kill me now,
snoozy,
dude. You know what I'm talking about?
And they introduced the mother box, which is going to come in a big part. And they did the cyborg, the Jeff Johns cyborg creation, but it's like a really backdoor way of doing that. And we'll talk more about that when we get to Justice League.
And the whole time through her looking at this is the like,
Wonder Woman theme.
They're trying so hard to make us love this scene, and that's why I don't like it. Yeah. Is because they're trying way too hard.
So Lois wants to get over to try and be there for the fight, and she asks Perry for a helicopter, and he's like, I can't afford this, and she's like, it's personal, and he's like, okay, Jenny, get her a helicopter. Forget the helipad. On the roof, Lois. And so she gets a helicopter, and the guy's like, hey, where are we going? She's like, there, and just points at the bat signal. Everything good?
Yeah, I was just... My neighbor was waving at me, but he was waving at the FedEx guy.
Well, so here we go. The fight starts. Clark lands. He's like, Bruce, I need your help. And Batman's like, well, here I am. He's like, and they duke it out. One thing I want to say is the way that Batman starts to get the upper hand in this fight is that he throws a regular gas canister out. Superman darts through it, but Batman moved out of the way and shoots him with the kryptonite gas canister. If you have X-ray vision, wouldn't you be able to see through the smoke? Like how was Batman able to evade him in the regular smoke cloud if he has X-ray vision?
Good question.
Right? So he moves him out of the way. Anyway, so he like neutralizes him with the kryptonite gas, and then Batman starts kicking his ass, and he tells him like, "You're not good, men are brave," or like, "You're not brave, men are brave," and he whoops his ass, and the fight happens, and I don't even want to talk about it, to be honest with you.
There's a couple.
It's kind of cool, but
I think it's despite it being cheesy and ridiculous, I thought it was fun.
Yeah, so. It's like the Dark Knight Returns. He has to neutralize him with kryptonite gas so that he's kind of human and he can kick his ass. So he shoots him with 2 out of the 3 gas canisters. So keep track of that third one because that's going to come back in like an hour. And so they fight, and eventually he whoops his ass so bad he throws him over a banister, and he gets down there.
I know I like this shot too because he gets him down on the ground and then he jumps on him and he takes him down, and I really like that shot. I thought that was cool.
And so
what I liked about this fight too in the movie, like again with how Zack Snyder directs his movies, he knew that it's Batman in a tank suit versus a superhuman god that's like built like Jesus. You know what I'm talking about? And so every movement between these two feels heavy. They use the bass very effectively. Like whenever there's a footstep, there's like a you feel the weight of both of these heroes in this situation. And then so that when Superman eventually there's that moment where he's getting like beat, he's getting punched, and then slowly
he starts to get it back.
It gets back, and you feel that, and I think that's a really cool use of film.
I mean, this fight should have happened like an hour into the movie, or even 30 minutes into the movie. Like they should have been fighting a lot earlier.
They should have had multiple fights.
Because the fight is cool, but it's only like 9 minutes.
Yeah,
and we've been waiting 2 hours for a movie called Batman v Superman, and that's just, it's one of the cardinal sins of this movie. I'm going to keep saying that phrase.
And it's like the first action sequence too. Like there's no action before this. There's like the one scene at the docks.
Yeah.
And that's it.
Where he kills everybody with his car.
Yeah. That's it. It's so weird. The way that they decide to make this like a political thriller.
Yeah, but and you're right. But then the part of this fight too is it ends with one of the worst scenes in the movie, which is like
him throwing him around.
He's throwing him around, and he's like, I bet your parents taught you that you were a good boy, but like my parents taught me dying in a gutter for nothing at all. And he's throwing him around, and then he gets the spear, and he's gonna cut his face with the spear, and he's like about to stab him with it, and he's like, "You're letting him kill Martha." Which, why would you call your mom Martha?
Yeah, I know. Say my mother.
He's gonna kill my mother.
He's going to kill my mother.
But they needed to make a connection between them, which, if you didn't know, based on our hints earlier, Martha Kent, and there's also a Martha Wayne. Yeah. And apparently, since everyone knows Batman gets triggered by his dead parents, they thought that the best way to get Batman to be friends with Superman in this movie was if he realizes that they both had the same mother's name. But I like the part where he's like, why he like looks around, he's like, why would you say that?
Yeah, he gets,
it's like he thinks someone's behind him.
And here's the thing. I've had my criticisms on this episode about Ben Affleck. I think he's a great part of this movie. They didn't have another take of this scene because
why would you say that name?
It's so bad, dude. It would have been so much more effective. He's like, even if you have to make Superman say the line "Save Martha," like as cheesy as that,
Martha, as he's stepping on his face.
As cheesy as that is, Batman, his reaction should silence. You cut the music, you cut the sounds, and you just hear him like, and maybe even turn the modulator off. And he's like, "Why would you say that?"
No, that still sounds stupid.
Here's the thing, though, is that there's no way to write this scene.
Yeah, it's because it's bad.
It's just bad. It's bad inherently, but I'm just shocked that they didn't have another take of Ben Affleck.
So he's like scared. But also there's a line that he says where he goes, "What does that mean?" It's like, what do you mean? What does it mean? Martha is a person's name.
Well, because he goes, "What does that mean?" And then it's his mommy's name.
Yeah, well, that's the thing too. Is Lois somehow finds where they're at. I guess they were screaming really loud. But he's like, "Why would you say that name?" And she's like, "It's his mother's name." And then he goes like, "Oh shit," like internally. And then he remembers his dad going, "Martha."
Yeah, right. If this wasn't already ham-fisted enough, they feel the need to cut back to that.
Jeffrey Dean Morgan.
So bad, dude. It's so bad.
So he chucks the spear away, and like you can tell he feels bad. And anyway, they decide to be buddies on a twist of a knife.
And this is the worst part about it.
Martha won't die tonight.
Yeah, it's so fast.
Yeah, it's incredibly quick. Like he should have gone back to the Batcave for a little bit to decompress.
Well, he all you needed is a line where he's like,
"I'm sorry."
No, it's like, this isn't over. Like, like, I still don't trust you. Like, you need to say, like, we literally just met.
And 5 minutes later, he says that I'm a friend of your son.
I'm a friend of your
like,
son's.
They're buddies, I guess.
Bonkers, right? Man. I don't get it at all.
So anyway, so the three of them have a powwow. They find out that Luthor's behind it. He's like, I'm going to go get my mom. He's like, no, you go to the ship. That's where Luthor is. I'll get your mom. I promise you, Martha won't die tonight. And so he gets in the Batwing to go get Martha. Lois stays at the wrecked building with the spear, and Clark goes off to the ship. And I do like this line in the Batwing where he's like, I couldn't help but overhearing, but I've traced the agent's phone to the docks, and he's like, I don't deserve you, Alfred. And he's like, no, sir, you do not.
You do not, yeah.
But essentially, it could have been like, this movie doesn't deserve you, Jeremy Irons. And he goes, no, it does not.
But it's okay, Jeremy Irons, because you're going to go on to be in the best TV show ever made in about 6 years.
So Lois picks the spear, throws it in the pond. Batman goes to the warehouse, and we get a cool fight scene, but he also murders everybody in the building, so he's still killing people.
I still think that this fight scene holds up.
It does.
Because
it's cool.
It's cool, it's well shot, and I think
like the Arkham games, we get to see Batman, like, this is one of the first times in history of cinema with Batman that we see him fight like he does in the comics.
Yeah, and you can tell that even the extras, Ben Affleck especially, they must have worked really hard on that choreography because the way that they move and this, like, how people come into frame, it's very clean looking. It flows. You know exactly where all the bad guys are. You know exactly what kind of situation Bruce is in, if he's like hurt, if he's on the upper hand. And it's so smart. Like, I think it's one of the better action sequences in superhero movies. Just because it feels so, it's refreshing. You're like, especially because you've had 2 hours of nonsense before this.
Yeah, but again, the motivations for him being there, it's
weird.
It's bad.
It's muddled.
And he takes out the KGB guy by shooting the gas tank, which would have killed all of them.
Yeah, and he shoots the tank and
then
has
he has
enough
time to catch Martha. And so he covers Martha with his cape, and she's like, "Oh my god!" And he's like, "Don't worry, I'm a friend of your son's." And she's like, "I
tell
know
by the cape."
The cape, and it's like, "Oh my god, kill me! I just want to get out of this movie." And we're almost there.
Yeah,
but Clark confronts Lex at the ship, who's waiting for the Doomsday creature to be created, and he's like, "Oh, you are one bat head short." And then he's like, "You've lost." And he's like, "I don't know how to lose." And he's like, "You'll learn." I actually kind of like the "you'll learn" thing. I think that's cool. But he's like, "One Gotham roast, well done." And he picks it up, and he's like, "How'd it go?" He's like, "Break the bad news." And Batman's like, "I'm going to do the breaking in person." Which is like, why is... So not only did he shoot the gas tank that killed the people in the room, but the phone was unharmed, and he was able to use Anatoly's
I didn't think about that.
Kniazev's phone.
That's bad.
Yep. But anyway, Doomsday is born, and he looks like a shitty Ninja Turtle from like the Jerry Bruckheimer Ninja Turtle movies. And this is where it's like, we just want the movie to be over.
Yeah. Zach has questions for John. Doomsday, is he always a Kryptonian creation?
No. He's an alien from another world. That's it.
Okay. I didn't hate the idea that he's like... Because the
Made
idea...
from Kryptonian DNA.
And...
Human
DNA.
Sure.
So it's kind of...
Why doesn't he look like a Kryptonian or a human?
I know. Well, it's an abomination. You're not supposed to mix... It's going to be that's what Superman and Lois Lane's kid's going to look like.
Oh my god.
Because it's an abomination.
Yeah.
No, seriously though, in all seriousness, I think that this Doomsday thing in this movie is just is bad, man. It looks bad. I feel it's just a big hunk of CG goo that's fighting other little CG goo, and it's a terrible choice. Don't like it. So,
Superman tries to fight it. He takes it into space. The government nukes it in space because it's out of orbit. It doesn't die. It comes back and it lands on Stryker Island, which is uninhabited, by the way.
Yeah.
But this version of Doomsday
it's uninhabited.
this version of Doomsday absorbs energy like Black Panther's suit, and then it explodes.
Right.
Which isn't normally what happens with Doomsday. He just bruises people. Superman is like passed out in the sky from getting hit with a nuke, but he gets healed from the sun.
This is my favorite.
When he's up in space?
Yes, this is one of my favorite moments of the movie.
So that's taken from Dark Knight Returns.
Yes, just because like it's the music swells,
Watching
I
him
love,
heal.
yeah, watching
cool.
him heal comes back, and it's like that iconic. They didn't go full Jesus because he's not doing like this.
Almost though.
He's almost there. He's like
He's like dinosaur. Yeah.
But I just like the imagery so much about that, and yeah, I like.
So then Batman is in the ship, and he's like, somehow figures out that it's Kryptonian. And he's like, Alfred, the spear, it's pure kryptonite. I gotta lead it back to the kryptonite, back to the city.
Yeah,
and he's like, it's weird. It's a weird line.
And then
anyway, so he's shooting at him, and he's leading it back to the harbor, and it takes the bat plane down. He crashes. Doomsday is about to blast him in the face with heat vision, and he goes, "Oh shit!"
Yeah,
which is quite possibly another Ben Affleck idea.
Maybe, yeah.
And then Wonder Woman shows up, but this scene would have been a lot better if it wasn't ruined in the trailer. Yeah. But she shows up and blocks it with her bracelets, and sends it back to him. And the music kicks in, and this is arguably one of the best parts of the movie. Is unfortunately, she's forced into this movie, but at least we get her introduction, which is, in all honesty, is cool to see her fight. This is the first on-screen appearance of Wonder Woman
and her
in a theatrical movie.
Her fighting in this final fight is the only thing that saves it, I think. Because, like, Batman is basically just grappling from one location to the next location.
He doesn't do shit, he's just watching.
Superman is just blunt force, punch harder at this thing. Mm-hmm. But at least Wonder Woman has this scene where she, like, does the slide and the cut, and then she gets hit and she
cuts
smiles.
His hand off. Yeah, I do like that part where she got the smirk.
Yeah, and it's awesome because it that's how you show emotion in a fight. Like that's what the Marvel movies are so good at, is that during a fight you'll have little character moments so you can tell how people are feeling.
Well, and it's also cool because she says the line where it's like, "I've killed things from other worlds before," and you're just like, "Dad, dude, fuck yeah, Wonder Woman's awesome.
Let's go."
But then they ruin that by being like, "I thought she was with you." It's like,
I still don't like that line at all. I don't like that line.
Instinctively, Lois knows how to get the spear. She has to go back and get it.
This is the biggest plot hole. This is the biggest plot hole in this movie, is that Ben Affleck realizes that he needs the spear, and he tells Jeremy Irons, but no one fucking tells Lois, but she somehow knows that she needs to go back and get it?
Like, none of them, besides Luthor, know that it's made with Kryptonian DNA, essentially.
It makes literally zero sense. It's almost like they forgot.
Lois has no idea about kryptonite up until she sees Ben Affleck almost stab Superman in the face with it. Yeah. So, like, how does she know that it's good with killing Kryptonians? She doesn't really. I don't know. It doesn't make any sense. But, again, you're right. This fight scene is cool just to watch the Wonder Woman aspect of it. Batman's just kind of, like, dodging a lot. Superman's being a dumbass. Clark hears Lois because she starts to drown in the pond to get the spear. He has to go get it. He's like, "You're my world." And she's like, "Don't do it." And he's like, "I love you."
You sounded like Dominic Toretto. "I love you, baby. You're my world."
So he flies with the spear, and he's gonna go kill Doomsday with it.
Yeah.
What I want to know is, why doesn't he just be like, "Hey, yeet, woman," and he throws it to Diana, and she could just stab him.
Right? Yeah, because she's like holding him on the back.
She could have done it.
No sense.
Instead, he's gonna sacrifice himself because they have to shove the death of Superman story in here. But what happens is it's a three-way conclusion. She's holding him with the lasso. Batman finally has the perfect opportunity, which I don't know how he knew Superman was about to stab him with the spear. Maybe he saw him, but he instinctively knew to shoot him with the gas canister at the right moment, the last one. And then Superman flies in there, stabs him with it, doesn't quite kill him. He stabs Superman in the chest, and then Superman pulls himself in like that orc in Lord of the Rings.
Right.
And he drives the spear deeper into him, killing both of them. Which, when Superman and Doomsday fought in the comics, they just beat the shit out of each other until they both die. But they do both die at the same time, which I do think was cool that they did that. But I also don't. I wish Doomsday wasn't in this movie. So.
Yeah, I think that it's. Yeah, this is a nitpick. Like, this is a stupid nitpick, but the spear is like long. He couldn't. Well, not just throw it, but even if you had him stabbing him, you can't just like move your hand down and move more of the spear in. Do you know what I mean? Like, instead of pulling yourself in and hurting yourself more, Superman could have just moved the spear further up.
So this is the thing, is essentially they don't actually need Superman for this fight. Because all you need to do is you need to have Batman neutralize Doomsday with the gas. Because you see it, he shoots him and he like goes dark and was like unconscious. You don't actually need Wonder Woman holding him with the lasso because she could just be using the spear after Batman shoots him and like kill him. or throw it at him, because she has super strength too. She could just javelin that shit. She grew up in Greece. I mean, that's what they do.
Yeah.
It's dumb. But anyway, so he's dead. And then we interrupt an emotional moment where Lois is holding Superman's dead body after Batman like lowers him down, and the sad music. It's cool.
Cool.
And then we cut back to our favorite guy, Lex Luthor. He's taking a bath in the Genesis chamber, learning about Steppenwolf.
Oh, yeah.
He's watching a image of Steppenwolf holding the boxes out, and he's like, and they're like spinning, and then it fades away as the SWAT team arrests him.
This scene
shaves him.
This scene was cut, right? The Steppenwolf scene, like it just in the real movie, it just cuts directly to him in jail.
Correct.
What a terrible decision.
Yeah.
Superman, your lead character, second lead character, just died, and then you decide to cut immediately to Lex Luthor.
The Justice League prequel. Yeah.
It's such a terrible decision.
I mean, the editing for this last part is pretty bad. They cut to a lot of different
ding
scenes.
dong, ding dong, ding dong, ding dong.
Ding, 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 ding. Yeah. Anyway, so they shave his head. There's 2 funerals that exist.
Cool.
They're good.
This is cool.
So there's the one in Metropolis that doesn't actually have a body in it, which is really cool. And then there's the one in Kansas, which is for Clark Kent's body, and he's the one actually in the coffin.
It's cool.
And they got all the characters from Man of Steel are there. Bruce Wayne picked up the tab. I guess he's trying to make amends. So, but yeah, they bury Clark Kent, and Diana and Bruce are off on the side watching. Lois finds out that for some reason Clark mailed the ring home to Kansas, and then he's going to go back and get it from Kansas and then take it back to Metropolis.
I don't know, man.
Anyway,
I don't know.
Martha gives him the ring, and Lois starts to wear it. He was going to propose to her, even though they've only been dating for a year, and he's from another planet. But
hey, love moves fast.
I guess so. Yeah,
love moves fast.
But what I thought was interesting is now the public loves Superman, and they all show up for the funeral. And I do like the part where they're at the memorial thing, and it's like if you look for his memorial, look around you or whatever.
If you seek his monument, look around you. Yeah,
pretty cool.
Cool line.
And then Diana and Bruce start talking. They're going to set up Justice League.
We need to assemble a team.
And he's like, help me find the others like you. And she's like, what if they don't want to be found? And he's like, they're going to have to. And she's like, why? He's like, a feeling. He's like, Finn. He's like, just a feeling.
He's force sensitive.
And then it cuts to him visiting Luthor in jail, which did happen in the theatrical movie, but in the extended cut, we find out that he's having him transferred to Arkham.
Yeah, right.
Which is cool, I guess.
That's fine.
By the time Justice League happens, he's already out of Arkham. So, and that's when we get the bell has already been rung. He's coming. Ding, 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 ding. And it's like,
it's so bad.
But they don't say who he is. It could be Steppenwolf, but I think originally it's supposed to be Darkseid. We cut back. Diana's leaving. Bruce Wayne's leaving. Mm-hmm. Lois drops the dirt on the coffin. Music kicks in. Dirt lifts up just a little bit, and then credits roll. Oh, God, we're done.
And we're done. I want to give you a rousing round of applause, John, because it wasn't easy doing what you do.
Jesus.
But we made it.
Yeah.
2 hours and 16 minutes worth of pod there. And,
so let's wrap this beach up.
Yeah, so final thoughts.
You want to do the questions?
Yeah, hit me with a question.
3 questions, same as last time. First question being, who won the movie for you? Who is the takeaway from this movie? They're the best part. Maybe it's a director, producer, performance, or character arc. Who ultimately is the breakout winner of BVS Dawn of Justice?
Okay.
For you. Last time, yours was Michael Shannon.
Yes.
And I agreed with you, but I picked a different one, so we didn't have the same one. And my backup was Amy Adams.
Amy Adams.
Yep.
So here's the thing. I'm not sure if anybody won here. I
think everyone lost.
I think so. Someone made money, right? I mean,
Warner Brothers.
Warner Brothers made money. They all the actors that led the film probably got a good paycheck. But here's the thing: is that honestly, I think I would say Jeremy Irons, because he's the only one that came out of this and he didn't get made fun of. Mm-hmm. The real answer would be Ben Affleck, because I think that. I don't know. Well, no. Follow me on this.
Because his life went down.
That's what I'm. That's the thing, is that going into BVS, everyone said, a lot of people said Ben Affleck not a good pick for Batman. He's not going to do very good. Everyone came out of this movie going, wow, the Ben Affleck Batman stuff is some of the best Batman stuff we've ever seen. 3-picture deal on the way, blah 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 blah. But then the movie happens, and then his career goes kind of downhill after this. Again, yeah. And so I can't say Ben Affleck, so I'm going to go Jeremy Irons.
Okay.
He gave a good performance. He came out mostly unscathed, went on to be in the best TV show ever made.
I'm going to go with Gal.
Gal Gadot? Yeah, because she does.
Because this movie, even though her part in it is forced and she doesn't necessarily have the greatest stuff to work with, after this movie, we were all hyped for it. And it transitions into her being in Wonder Woman, which is a good movie. Mostly, and
we'll see when we go. We add it to rewatch here.
We'll talk about it. I'm looking forward to that rewatch very much. But yeah, I just remember everybody being like, "That movie sucked, but Wonder Woman is really cool." You know what I mean? Like, and I think she's the takeaway winner from this because it sets up her rise to fame as Wonder Woman in pop culture. But I like the Jeremy Irons pick. I would agree with you. Affleck has the best stuff to do in the movie most of the time, but he doesn't win the movie because this movie is a downward spiral for his career again.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Because he gets caught up in the negative reviews and it sucks, but like it tanked his life and then he gave up in Justice League and he's a shell of a man in that movie and a shell of a character and it's not good and then he quits Batman, quits directing. It just becomes bad news after bad news, which we have covered on the show over the last 5 years.
Yeah, seriously.
So, question 2.
Yeah.
Your favorite scene?
It's a toss-up. I really like the very beginning of the Batman versus Superman fight.
Right?
I do like Superman coming back, but being healed by the sun. I think that's a get hype moment. But I think just due to the sheer coolness of the action, I'm gonna have to say the Batman warehouse sequence.
Okay, I'm torn between the beginning of Bruce Wayne in Metropolis or Wonder Woman fighting.
Showing up at the fight.
But I don't want that whole scene. I just want her
moment. Yeah.
That moment and her stuff to work with. But yeah, that Batman fight scene is also pretty cool. All right, so then the last question is, what do you rate it on the 0.5 scales?
Yes. So now is where we rate, and then.
So I think you went first last time, so I'll go first for this movie. I'm going to give it... I gave Man of Steel a 6.5.
You gave Man of Steel a 6.5, and I gave Man of Steel a 7.
You gave it a 7.
It was last week's ratings on the Radiovania scale.
Okay. I'm going to give BVS a 5 out of 10. 50%.
John Parker.
Took 50%, Ben.
John Parker, I am right there with you.
Let's go.
I was going to say the exact same thing because I think it works both ways. It's a 5 out of 10, star level, if you want to give that, like the 20-point scale. But if this was a Rotten Tomatoes, I think it's like 50-50. You know what I mean? For every really cool moment in this movie, there is something that is laughably bad. And it jumps up and down. It's like a heart rate monitor. The whole movie is just like good thing, bad thing, good thing, bad thing, good thing, bad thing, over and over and over again. So and now we'll get on to our ranking. As we add BVS into our list of all the films.
Yeah, well, we got to talk about something real quick before you do that.
Okay.
Because after we did Man of Steel, you asked if we could add the Todd Phillips Joker movie to our in review, which is going to throw my rankings off that we talked about last time. Because last time we were like, where do you think Man of Steel falls? And I was like, somewhere in the 2 to 4 range on the list. But adding a good movie like Joker to this is going to retroactively change that. So going forward, I'm going to adjust and say Man of Steel will probably still be somewhere in the 3 to 5 range now that we added Joker.
Yeah. That's
a little bit of a spoiler for our rankings, but I think it's pretty obvious that the Joker is probably the best, one of the best ones.
And I mean, here's the thing is that, I haven't seen some of these movies. Like, I've seen the newer ones. Like, I've only seen Aquaman once. I've seen Shazam once. I've seen Joker once. I've seen Birds of Prey once. It's like, I haven't seen Wonder Woman since it was in the theaters. So it's like some of these movies, I'm not sure how I'm going to feel about them. And I think that, it's going to be interesting to see where they fall on the list.
Yeah.
But, now that both of us have given it a 5, John, where would you rank Batman versus Superman, Dawn of Justice?
So we've done 2 episodes so far. It's definitely behind Man of Steel.
I concur. So
currently it's 2 in the standings.
So right now the ranking goes like this. Number 1, Man of Steel. Number 2, Batman v Superman:
Yep.
Dawn of Justice.
Yep. Predictions for where it's going to fall? Bottom tier.
I think that the only thing that gets worse than this is Suicide Squad. Is next week's episode, because that's like the bottom of that's the one where I remember leaving the theater and going, "Fuck these movies." Mm-hmm. This one, at least, we had cool things to talk about.
We had hope that we might get a cool Ben Affleck Batman movie. We might get a good Wonder Woman movie.
Yeah.
Superman's going to come back, and maybe they'll do Man of Steel 2.
Yeah.
Some Justice. Justice League might be good. But like Suicide Squad, we were like, maybe Suicide Squad will be better than BVS, and we went and saw it, and it was significantly worse. And we were just like, how did they mess up the DC universe? Because like the DC universe has cool characters, and they are shitting the bed right now.
Yep.
And I am not looking forward to doing that pod at all.
Yeah. So for everyone that wants to join up next week, watch along with us. We will be reviewing Suicide Squad. Directed by David Ayer, and it's going to be a trip because I seriously haven't seen that movie since the theater.
Mm-hmm. Since the three of us saw it, and we were all really mad.
Yeah, so it's going to be an interesting watch. But thank you for joining us on this week's episode.
Just remember, we're the bad guys.
We're the bad guys. Wait, hold on.
I'm
2
Joker,
hours,
baby.
We're at the pod. We're at 2 hours and 24 minutes, and Batman v Superman is 2 hours and 31 minutes. So I was worried we were going to go longer.
3 hours, the one that we watched.
The one that we watched.
Yeah, so thankfully we didn't.
We didn't go longer than the movie.
It takes a while to recap it, though.
Yeah.
It's so much plot.
So follow us at Radiovania. Go to radiovaniashow@gmail.com with your questions, comments, and concerns, and your rankings of the DCEU. And we will see you same bat time.
Same bat channel.